I agree. But Lori has an important. She made an important statement today. Lori, are you there?
I'm here.
Can you tell Juan exactly what you told me about Obama's rogue judge or appointed judge that just got ahead of the ball of Trump signing an executive order? Now, I don't believe a federal judge can do anything that the president enacts with an executive order, but he's getting ahead of the ball. Juan, have you heard about this judge? Go ahead, Lori.
An Obama appointed federal judge just issued an order banning Trump from implementing an election security executive order, which included a proof of citizenship requirement to register to vote.
Yep.
I see the Supreme Court stepping in on that one.
Well, again, this fight has been going on the whole time. Remember, all the judges that said that Trump could be taken off the ballot in Colorado. The entire judicial system in Colorado said, yeah, we can take him off. Then we got to the federal courts, and they said, yeah, but we got to fast track to the Supreme Court, and then it was a unanimous 9-0 decision, which almost never happens. The Supreme Court said unanimously, no, you cannot take Trump off the ballot. All the other judges did what they did. A lot of times these judges, if they understand the politics of the region, they'll make a decision knowing it's going to get appealed. And so they're not actually going to stop stuff. They're buying time is all they're doing. And they know that. This judge knows that there's a fair likelihood he'll get overturned. So, he does it and just figures a higher court's going to have to come up with a different ruling, and I'm doing my part. I was put here for a reason, and I'm fulfilling that reason. And they are, many of them, literally Kool-Aid drinkers that are frothing at the mouth. Somehow, they fit into one of the gangs that needs to hold power, and it's not always finance. The friends that get the contracts for certain bids, any number of things. So, even what Trump did the other day, doing a little tiny baby step in with the Q stuff on the White House website, was pretty remarkable. I think everybody here understands that was a very, very big deal. It took the Q operation in large measure, where anybody wanted to say that it's somebody in their underwear in grandma's basement. As I've said all the way along, no, it's an extremely complex operation that's augmented by AI, but very real humans were in charge of pulling it in a certain way where it worked for dates and anticipation and all sorts of things. It's very sophisticated. It's a military operation. To have it validated at some level by a posting at the White House means that you can't just dismiss it casually, as many have, and now it's time to think again. And in the context of the president saying, I'm 45, was 46, however, I don't really want to take credit for it, and now 47. Well, if he was 46, how could he be 46 and we not know about it or it not be common knowledge? And if the Q stuff is real, even though it was fought early on, do we now have to reconsider everything Q in the light of Trump never conceded the election, never left the commander-in-chief role? It rebalances the equation to a new center. And from a computer analysis conclusion, which is all Looking Glass is the computer stuff, calculating out likely outcomes. Okay, it's interesting, but saying an absolute, look, The one thing we all know here, this is really important, but for the grace of God himself, none of us would make it. And God governs in the affairs of men. That's the Bible history. But I don't think there's any guarantee that we make it except by divine assistance. And that's why in the Q memes themselves, it admonishes us to pray. Why? Because apart from prayer, we're not going to make it. Asking God to assist, inviting him to assist. He gave us the world and everything that's in it to Adam and his seed. Okay. But, you know, how we operate with it, we give God permission to help us, to assist us, to intervene on our behalf. And then he does because we've asked him. But there's still a fight that has to happen in the Q stuff. But against principalities and powers of darkness in high places, quoting scripture. Okay, so fights on. And, you know, if God's on our side, we will prevail. But if the American people don't fall on that side, look at Sodom and Gomorrah. You know, if there just be 50 good men, if there be 40, if there be 10, then you could save the city. But there wasn't even that. You know, we're the ones that are in prayer, asking for divine assistance and help and intervention. And then there is important details through the fight. If it was just going to be given to us, all we had to do is just sit down, watch, and wait, then, you know, why would you do anything? Why would, you know, I talked with people today who were putting huge amounts of their personal wealth into aspects of the fight. Well, if it's all determined and nobody has to do anything, we just sit there and wait, then why would they spend their own money? Why not go out and buy another Jaguar? Because it's still in play. And they want to be counted. They want to be part of it. They want to be before God himself, able to take to have been part of it and have some bragging rights. When I was called, when I had the resources, God blessed me, and I took some of that blessing and I applied it to the fight. I took some of my life energy and applied it to the fight. That's worth more than money. You know, your time. I said something when something needed to be said. I stepped up and took a side. I didn't back down, even though there was pressure against me. I let it be known. I made my stand, and here I am. You know, if I make it, great. If I don't, you know, God knows I took a stand at the critical moment, and I died on the right side of history. Yeah, so I mean, I don't think we have to have, look, I can't quantify, don't know any other details. It's interesting he took a side, but there might have been, and he may or may not have been aware of it, 20, 50, 1,000 shots gaming this out. And he saw one or a couple where we win because we've gamed it out, got all the details right, and we won. Well, we do win. There is a plan, and the plan is based on computer simulations and AI. What do you got to do to win? Aliens landed on the planet. What are you going to do? In those early days, by the way, we didn't say, for example, Democrats or Republicans, or Luciferians versus Bible thumpers. It, you know, saying aliens, there was one that I was told about later was zombie apocalypse, because aliens was not quite there. So, you know, they've gamed out lots of different things. It's being gamed out even now. I'll use this one example. In the selling of it to the public was the visual that was broadcast on all the media: toilet paper and paper towels. What? If you show people hoarding toilet paper and paper towels, the subtle thing behind the scenes that actually tells you is that there's food to eat. You don't need toilet paper if you haven't had something to eat, something to clean up with. Plus, if you're going to show people at the grocery store, if you show them hoarding beans, that's a problem at some level because they'll clean out the bean shelf. But a few operators, people on the payroll, people that are part of the MK Ultra, can go in with a couple of shopping carts, and it's high volume. It takes up a lot of airspace. Toilet paper and paper towels. They can go out and clean out a whole row of shelves in the paper products aisle, and you only need 10 people, and it's all gone. They just load their grocery carts up. They leave the store. You know, granted, they got stuff back at the warehouse. They can refill it the next day or overnight. They can call it in. But for a TV camera looking down the thing, oh my gosh, it says store shelves are empty. If you did it with beans and you know, other stuff, it would be a little more difficult. The cans are smaller. You know, which aisle are you going to pick, etc. And you don't want people in fear that they won't be able to get that food, you know, for various reasons. So part of the PSYOP was the paper products, paper aisle, and all of that in the early stages of the. I lost my way. Whatever you guys want to know. So, yeah.
So I'm sorry. Can I ask you a question about Canada?
Thank you, Juan, for an amazing answer. I appreciate it, sir. God bless you. And Jen.
Can I ask you a question about Canada?
Yeah.
I'm just, you know, I'm a bit lost because I'm Canadian and I, you know, listen to you and Juanito and this family, but like, how did you see things playing out in Canada? Like in terms of gold and silver, in terms of like political, you know, we have Carney who's like, you know, deep state as it goes. So how do you see Canada versus the US?
Within the politicians in Canada and the courts and a significant portion of the politicians, I mean the business people, they have real problems. The pedophilia, the satanic Luciferian stuff, and crooked deals going into World Economic Forum, Davos crowd, etc. Canada in the leadership, most every category, including the churches, very captured. That's in part, you know, I say the churches because who was pushing to go get the shot? The very tiny number of pastors who had the unction and the willingness to fight that got hammered severely. Canada as a people, I think just because of the relationship into as a Commonwealth member, very captured in an MK Ultra sense as a people. Like Australia, sort of New Zealand, as a people, walking in lockstep with this Dominion, Crown, Commonwealth theme. More, I'm trying to think the right way to say it. Drank the Kool-Aid than most places, including the United States, especially. The only thing I would say in defense of the people of Canada, when a population has been so deep under, and then the fog starts to lift, and it's going to lift. They're going to see what's happening in the U.S., and there's going to be revelations going into Canada that are going to be ultra shocking, including the Epstein stuff. Believe me, when a people has really, really been snookered, it's like if you're a victim of a con man. Maybe a different way of saying it. I had a business partner that was a smoker, and then he decided to stop smoking. Well, there's deer out. He was waiting across the road. Um, uh, the relative died, and he just plain decided that he didn't want to be a victim. He didn't want his kids to be a victim, and he shut it off. People like that tend to be extremely, they go way over to the other side. They flip harder. And I think that's what's going to happen in Canada as they realize who these leaders are and some of the scams that have gone on. The American people are going to flip, but I think the Canadian people flip even harder and more resoundingly. Here, a way of saying it is maybe somebody becomes conservative. There, the people that flip, they're going to have no tolerance for the in-between stuff, and they're going to go all the way the other way. In fact, I just had a conversation with someone in North Dakota today who, her and her husband, very well to do. She's got a presentation about how she was a Democrat, and then she finally, realized that everything that she believed was not true, that it was different than what she had grown up believing. And so she didn't just become conservative, she's become very hardcore conservative, a church person, but the church, that they're involved in, not quite the same, other people around them. I think that's what happens. I think it's something extreme. It's more, they're more sensitive, so they flip harder. And then as far as Canada's relationship with the United States, we tease about 51st state stuff and all that. The reality is it'd be very hard to do that. I think it really comes down to that we change our trade agreements, modify them, and certain of the provinces align themselves very closely with the U.S. But we actually need the strength of the relationship with people that still have their own independent perspective, mindset, etc. I don't think the people of Canada truly want to become a 51st state.
I do.
They like to be, well, and it might, it can happen with the resolution. Same thing with Greenland and other stuff. We're not saying no. We just want that it's, we don't have to be so harsh that we try to create a fight or a civil war within the people of Canada. If we do it, it's almost like let's do a baby step and enter some type of territorial agreement, which allows for defense, mining, other stuff, an open border without even, let's not do any offense to some of the people that might see it differently, where they think that they're being overdriven or something's being stolen from them. I'll say this. In Revelations, it talks about the river at the center of the heavenly city. And there's trees that line the river. And the trees give their fruit in season, and each in their season. And the leaves of the trees in the heavenly city are for the healing of the universe, unination, doesn't all become one. God himself has made a provision that the independent identities of peoples as nations is retained even in that heavenly realm. So I don't think we want to lose the things that make us, give us character, uniqueness in God's creation. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
The cost of production for silver is higher than the current cost when you go buy it. You can't keep producing something for less than it costs to get it out of the ground. And we've had silver that's been sopped up from other military programs that help to add to supply. That's pretty much all gone. With America reindustrializing, turning on the factories again, the need for silver as that comes online over the next 12 to 24 months is going to be astronomical in the need of silver. Computers, electronics, everything else. And by the way, if these people buy silver offshore, it's got a 50% tariff on it. So if you're buying up here, you're getting out of the way of something coming. A wise man sees trouble and gets out of the way. Take advantage of these low prices. Don't screw around. The world's changing, and you don't want to get caught short with what's coming.
In
Okay.
a post, NKESS, I actually have it here. Now, their misspellings matter. So, can you explain that?
I probably got it in some of my notes. I do remember that we had something about that. What post is that, by the way, that you're seeing that?
It's post 97 from November 5th, 2017. And it has
Yeah.
10 days in red, and then underneath it, it says Dorncas.
And so what that refers to is a specific operation within the military. You'll remember we have Red Castle, Green Castle,
Yes.
and those refer to operations in a continuity government type of a thing and military operations. And so what you're really looking at whenever you find stuff like that, or that specifically, just like what the president did by posting Q on the White House website, what he's doing is he's allowing the public to have to think again. Is this a psyop by somebody in grandma's basement in his underwear? Okay. Is this, as I've told this audience and other audiences many, many, many times, for example, to every posting time has relevance numerically. So they're posted to the second, okay? There may be some that are less critical than others, but numerous of them, the posting time is absolutely critical because it reinforces the meaning, has something to do with the meaning. You know, why were they posting at all these different times, sometimes multiple times a day, other times, a post at some oddball hour? It goes back to that. You can't throw out a message into the internet stream and predict with exacting precision exactly what second shows up in the posting. It could be off by several seconds, even though you're being very precise, even with computers and all that. The only group that has access to control the second that something like this would actually be posted in the internet is military.
Well, from what I understand, the interface between quantum and AI, we've kind of sort of had already. So basically, when you've always said that you've run algorithms, I don't know, 100,000 times, 1,000,000 times.
Yep.
I would assume that's how they got this predictive analytics.
Well, yes, because the humans set up the parameters, they put some variables in there, and then they run the program. And then they'll throw in different variables. And it might be essentially the same basic scenario, but they throw in some bigger or smaller scenarios, things that they, modifications, and then they see how it tweaks it. Does something unexpected happen? Is in the predictions something pop out? You go, wait a second, I didn't think about that. And so let's tweak that further. Let's add this to it and then see what happens. It's predictive because the programming is set up a certain way and you come up with certain answers. Then you have to validate, okay, this is what we believe would happen in the real world based on how we've gamed it out. And then you have a team that sits there and looks at it and goes, well, did you consider this? Was this weighted accurately? Working through it. And then, by the way, anybody that says they're Q or they were working within the queue, etc. Excuse me?
It's a military operation.
Nobody entered that portal after it started. There is nobody coming and going. And a couple people tried to claim ownership or direct operations and blah, blah, blah. Nope, never happened. And by the way, it's not one person, it's a team. I am the one, when everybody was asking who Q was, came in over and over and over, said it's not individual, it's a team. It's a team. It's a team. And there's no outside direct involvement. There's no back and forth involvement. It's one way. They're watching what's said, how it's done, and tweaking what they're saying to assist the public in understanding what's there and going deeper. And there were several times, for example, if you remember, early in the Q operation, there was photographs of 3 women. Merkel,
Yes.
the one in France, and another one in wherever it was, Germany, France, and England. And it was basically saying that all 3 were the spawn of Hitler, that they were there through genetic engineering. Okay, test tube baby stuff, boys in Brazil type stuff. Now, the pushback from the people watching the Q stuff was absolutely over the top. People split a gear.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, people went insane. They were so bad to say that these people were descendants of Hitler through a breeding program. So the Q response was, all right, you might not be ready for that yet, and we understand. Now think about that in the context of, and Michelle Obama's real name is Michael LaVaughn Robinson. Were the people ready to hear that also at that time? They really weren't. When I was pushing the limits all the way back before Obama got into the White House, people couldn't take it. Very famous comedian, I told this to back in 2006. And he went off, and this is somebody who's just anti-government and big money and all that stuff. And he just got lit up and said, look, even I don't believe that. I get all your conspiracy stuff. It's interesting to me, but I'm not going there. And don't ever talk about that's just plain mean. Don't ever talk about that with me again. I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to attack people like that. That's just mean, okay? They're big boned or whatever. I get it. Some of these African peoples are different. Go back and look at the old, movies with people and all that. So just shut that shit up. I don't want anybody to think I think that way. Literally 5 years later, out of the blue, I get a call, and this person's on the White House property getting ready to be picked up and leave. He can't even wait to get off the White House property before he calls me and says, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." Once you have seen that moose, you cannot unsee it. You cannot unsee that. That is the man. That is the guy. That is not a woman. Okay?
What about the UFC
I don't care
guy?
how many
He
cover girl
shouted it.
magazines there are. Okay. And by the way, this is the person that told Rivers, the comedian, about this, and then Rivers was saying it all over Hollywood. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. And today is different. You've had time to assess, evaluate. I've been saying it consistently, but I was with a very, very famous person, talks with Trump a couple times a week. And I had said what I said at the summit over the last few days, where I mentioned that, Michelle is a Michael. And this person says to me, "Is that really true?" Yeah, this is somebody I'm like, seriously? Oh my God. I was shocked. This is somebody that, should know this stuff and be all up to speed, but we're still getting people that, are having to come up to speed. So making a statement like that was actually very helpful. Because why? Because we're breaking the paradigms. And people have, if that's not true, how much of the rest of what we're being told is true? In fact, I'm dedicating half of one day of the coming conference to all the psyops that have tweaked how you perceive reality in our country over the last several decades. And
I'm looking forward to that.
With the speakers that are going to speak on that.
We see Russia, NATO getting ready to go to war. You're saying nuclear strikes are going to happen, I guess, any day now. Nuclear and precision tactical nukes, right? I get that.
I don't know when it's going to be, but it's coming.
So what about America? What about everything here that's happening with what we see Trump, starting to really blow the whistle on Obama, Tulsi Gabbard coming out with a report. There seems to be a lot of stuff happening here.
Yes, and that's not the only thing that's happening. Yes, they're going into the next phase of making arrests. They just arrested that guy in Turkey for the biggest medical fraud in history. I don't know if you saw that. They arrested him in Turkey, brought him back to the United States. And they're arresting people in Minnesota. They're indicting the governor of Minnesota, who really, in my opinion, should have been on jail a long time ago. Ilhan Omar, isn't that interesting? Her last tax return showed millions of dollars of her status, and today was zero. How'd that happen? Is that legal? I don't think so. Anyway, she's in big trouble too.
So yeah, we're seeing a lot of people in trouble, right? But like a lot of people are like, when are we going to see arrests? When are we going to see justice? But if you're really paying attention behind the scenes, things are moving. The wheels of justice grind slowly, and you have to make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, right? Like that's what's happening right now. It needs to be done in a surgical manner, correct, Stuart?
Yes, and they already arrested and over 200 people in Minnesota and other states for these frauds. They already have arrested people, but you have to go layer by layer by layer and get to the top. And they're getting to the top, and they're indicting people at the top, and that's happening. And keep your eyes as well on the mayor of New York City. Keep your eye on the mayor of Los Angeles and Chicago and the governors of those states. Keep your eyes on these people because they're on the target list. But there's something even more important that affects every American citizen that I was told today, and I need to tell you. The American debt, as you know, is close to 40 trillion at this very moment. and that's probably lowballing it. I was told this morning that when it hits 43 trillion, it's a death spiral. And that means every 10 seconds, the debt goes up $1 million every 10 seconds. And at that point, you can only pay the interest. They can't pay the debt off. They can only pay interest till kingdom come. And that's going to be a destruction of the American economy.
Well, is that what's going to lead to the Great Reset and then the whole new financial system coming?
Correct. But it's a race against time. All the countries are buying gold because the only thing that we can count on is hard asset, material asset as a backup for the money. And so they're going for the digital gold-backed currency. They're going to call it crypto, but it's really gold-backed digital currency, which at some point you won't have a choice because the money, the dollar, the paper money be zero. Useless. People don't know history, but you have to remember what happened in Germany before World War II. The great economic crash that happened because of World War I that destroyed their economy, that people needed wheelbarrows of money, of Deutschmarks, to go buy a loaf of bread. It cost 2 million Deutschmarks to buy a loaf of bread, and nobody had any money. And that's what led to the fascist regime to come in and revamp everything and take everything over. So it's a very dangerous situation. The United States is repeating that pattern. Now,
right, but I mean, my audience knows this is coming, and Trump has hinted on his True Socials, like the the greatest reset in history is coming, or whatever. We all know it's fast approaching. Is it going to happen this year, Stuart? Next year? Before 2028? After?
The date given to me was 2028 this morning. This is hot off the press. This morning, 2028. Okay. However, the offer to convert your money to the digital gold currency will begin by the end of this year. And here's the thing. For example, he told me if you have $5 million in the bank, cash, they might say, well, you're going to get 5,000 digital gold currency, not 5 million. So you're going to, oh my God, I lost everything. But you have to remember that 5,000 gold back is going to be worth more than the empty $5 million that was worth zero anyway, that you would have lost. So it makes sense.
So it's not going to transition over. It's not going to be able to transition properly. It's going to be an ugly mess.
It's a mess now.
Right. But you have someone with millions of dollars in the bank that they're only going to get a fraction of what they're worth. I mean, that's going to be devastating for this country. Yes.
He said the standard of living is going to go down. People are not going to have what they had before. And that's why you're seeing now very wealthy people buying gold, hard gold, silver assets, not paper anything, not stock anything. They want hard assets because that won't devalue. That will say, and you have that in your hand, and that's not going to go away. So that's what you're seeing happening now. And it's not going to be a pleasant situation. And countries, they mentioned to me one country, Switzerland, that has hard assets in gold, and that country or countries like that have this gold will not suffer the way other countries that have nothing in the bank, so to speak. So we're going to see that interesting thing, small countries with hard assets being more powerful than countries that we have now, larger countries.
Complete power shift.
Yes.
Economic power shift. Are we still looking at, obviously this is also going to coincide and go with the super states, correct?
Yes. And you will see Ecuador, the president of Ecuador, Noboa, was just in Washington, D.C. 3 days ago, and he agreed to allow American military to enter his country and take it over to get rid of the cartels and all those people. And the same thing is happening all over South America, even Bolivia, Argentina. We're moving from North Pole to South Pole, just as I had mentioned. It's a new super state. And remember I told you that we're going to get the UK as well? Well, Starmer was just forced to resign.
Oh, that's right. I thought about you on that.
No. Well, thank you for thinking about me when people resign. But uh, but that's
obviously things are happening.
yeah, and that's just the first thing. That's to save UK from Russian intervention, because, as I mentioned, Russian bombers are just north of Scotland as I'm talking to you right now, and we're going to see. And I was told, he already resigned. Not he will resign. He already did, and the successor is going to be very pro-American and change all the UK economic, political agendas to be more in alignment with the United States. And you will see that. And we're seeing that happening also in Greenland, which now they said by July 4th, that Greenland is part of the United States. And it really already is. Remember, Greenland only has 56,000 people. We have 4 or 5 new bases that they just opened in Greenland. All we have to do is send 15,000 people to each base, and the United States population is now a majority. You understand?
How many people? What's the population of Greenland? What did you say?
56,000.
What?
Yeah, they're all populated because you can't live there. Most of it is glacier. It's just like in Iceland, there's only 300,000 people because they can only live around the edge of the country. Inside, it's uninhabitable. You understand? So in Iceland, we also just sent a nuclear submarine to be based there. And we're now opening military base in Keflavik airport area. So we're basically moving across the North Pole, Northern Atlantic to take over everything. Israel is not withdrawing from Lebanon. And you see, here's the thing, Nino. Iran said, after all this MOU stuff and the signing, then they said, well, if Israel doesn't withdraw from Lebanon, we're not going to sign it. Now, the prime minister of Lebanon told Iran, stay out of our business. You're not Lebanese. We are. Take care of Iran. They don't even want them to discuss Lebanon. But Iran is using that as an excuse to keep the war going. And I got a debriefing from the Israelis, and I can't say who or what, but Israel is going to do something in Iran, and I was told it's going to get messy. That's what I was told. And I think it's going to happen very, very soon.
Yeah, because they need to keep this war going, correct?
Well, no, they want to end the war. They want to end Iran. They want Iran to finish. Now, I don't know if you watched.
I'm talking about this guy right here, Netanyahu. It's in his interest to keep a perpetual war going, isn't? Can't they go after him for war crimes right when this is over? This ends. Wouldn't he be more susceptible to that?
I'll tell you why not. Despite all of the anti-Israel propaganda from Europe and Asia and Africa, all these places, guess what? Those same countries that condemned Israel bought $20 billion of weapons from Israel. Those same countries, okay? So, as I was told, politically and media, they say one thing, but then they do something else behind the scenes. You understand? These countries really aren't stupid. They need Israeli weapons. They need Israel technology. They're not going to stop that. They can say something publicly for the news, but then behind the scenes, they bought $20 billion of weapons from Israel. And the Israeli weapons company, Rafael, is larger than any American weapons company. And that's why Netanyahu said yesterday that Israel is no longer need the United States for military supplies. They make their own. They don't need anybody. They're on their own. They don't need anybody but God. You understand? That's what's going on. They're not going to withdraw from Lebanon. And what's not on the news and what is not being said is that the same thing's going on in Syria. Israel has established military bases in Syria. They have bases now in Lebanon. They have bases in the United Arab Emirates and Qatar. And remember that secret base that they found in Iraq? That's not secret. They would give it. You think Israel's going to go in and open a base and nobody knows in Iraq? Are you kidding me? That's like, the Iranian drones, the Ukrainian drones going to St. Petersburg. That did not happen. You understand?
So before the midterms, we could see what Israel attack Iran again.
I think you're going to see it very soon. Not way before midterms. I was told, I was told, quite frankly, just 2 days ago, it will be very messy very soon in Iran.
And
That's what I
that's
was told.
probably going to get Trump riled up, right? I mean, I would imagine Trump and Netanyahu are at each other's throats right now. At least that's what it
That's-
seems like.
Listen, public propaganda. You understand? That way it looks like Trump is not responsible for what Netanyahu does, but there's an agreement behind the scenes, what they call under the table. Trump isn't an idiot. Netanyahu's not an idiot. They have planned this very, very carefully. And Israel has technology that nobody knows about. And so Israel has also sent millions of communication devices into Iran to the population, because Iran has shut down all the internet, they shut down communication. If they stop you on the street and you have a foreign phone call on you're assassinated on the spot. Okay? And so Israel,
They stop you on the street and what?
and look at your phone and you have a call that goes outside of Iran, gone.
What?
You're considered a spy. Listen, Iran is an evil government, whatever's left of it. It's an evil because your nose is like this. If your beard is too short, if your shoulder is showing, no questions asked. Okay? And this is who people want to support. This is who China is supporting. This is what other country. This is who you're fighting. You're defending Iran? No, they're evil and they kill their own people. You know that? So Iran is evil and it has to go. And so Trump doesn't want to take the responsibility to say that he did it. So he's letting Israel do it.
Got it. No is coming imminently as the nuclear tactical strikes by Putin.
Yes, I can't tell you.
That's gonna kick off everything, and that's gonna be before Christmas. You think?
I think it'd be way before he doesn't have that much time, you know. And the other thing you got to look for this in July is a massive release of alien information. A massive release. What you've gotten so far is nothing. Wait till July.
Alien disclosure.
Yeah, not 100%. It's going to be things that people never imagined. They already gave a lot of information, let's say about the 4 different types of beings that are out there, generally. I would say there's 5, but they've said 4. But there's going to be a lot more information going on about that.
Stuart, where do people find you?
In my room mostly, because I can't get up sometimes. But there we have a webinar every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We do Q&A, free Q&A to members every one Friday every month. It's all on the website. Go look, check it out, and join us.
Okay, perfect. All right, so then we're gonna have some fun with this one. So I wanted to just start it off with you first, Pete. Trump says he's been waiting his whole life. Been waiting his whole life for this moment. Kind of reminds me of the Phil Collins song. You know what I mean? I can feel it coming in the air tonight. I've never heard him make a statement like this for this moment. In other words, we're in it. And for him to say the communists are about to make their move tells me that obviously I don't think the SAVE Act is going to pass. I'm sure you agree with me on this. And it's going to go to some kind of executive orders or national security emergency in which that will push the Democrats, or the deep state, I should say, because the rhinos and the Democrats are on the same team, to do something pretty drastic, correct?
Yeah, you heard Martin Rodale, right? You know, with the election stuff, and I said that was the most important segment. You know what the DOJ told him?
What's that?
Although they had evidence and they showed how Venezuela and Serbia overthrew 72 countries. They showed them how they overthrew the elections. The DOJ said, because Martin Rodale asked the DOJ, I know you can't tell us about the results of the investigation and the grand jury, but hopefully our information was valuable. And the DOJ said that's about 10% of what we have.
Holy cow. So there's a lot more to this.
And it's in the summit. Martin Rodale says it at the very end when Ralph Pizzullo, after Ralph Pizzullo spoke, but Martin Rodale and Ralph Pizzullo said that information, overthrowing 72 countries with their elections, that the DOJ said that's 10% of what, you know, the magnitude of the problem. So President Trump is indicating that he's got a lot of information. I'm telling you, it's not a
But
personal
but
opinion.
but the thing is this: the trick to all this is, which we've always known, is the public. How are we going to bring the public on board? That's where the civil unrest
Yes.
occurs. That's where
Right.
the media is going to play him like some kind of tyrannical dictator. This is where it's going to be really, really tricky. And there comes a point in all of this operation where you have to say all systems go and fuck it. Like I think we're there, man. I think when I say that, I mean, we tried to gradually bring the people on board with letting Biden take the 2020 election, letting that red pill. He didn't sign the Insurrection Act, to my understanding, and we had to drag the public through 4 years of Biden, and now we're 2 years into Trump, and it looks like coming into midterms, this will be go time. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, the midterms. I said it on your show this morning. Um, uh, I made a prediction, knowing what I know factually. Right? There's no way that we can have a midterm election the way things are right now. There's no way. He has enough right now to declare an emergency because they've been so negligent in preparing our systems for the election. They're violating the law. They're not going to have money from the federal government through HAVA to do the election. So what's that going to do? This investigation is a multi-year investigation. Tulsi Gabbard was given all that information to the ODNI. A report was prepared and a criminal referral was made, likely delivered to the two federal grand juries in Florida. The game is on. We expect, and President Trump said that, enjoy watching, he said in his message, didn't he?
Yeah.
Enjoy watching. What are we going to be watching? Some big stuff's coming down.
So Pete, when he says, I'm waiting for the communists to make their move, are they, in your mind, is it going to be, what's the move, man? What do you think the move is? Is it going to be due to Trump signing or declaring a national security emergency and then they move, or are they going to move first?
Yeah, we're talking about, if we refer to the deep state, this is a communist revolution, a Marxist revolution here in the United States of America. Their moves prior to right now have been just incremental, just infiltrate every single institution, take over the election systems. Their revolution is not by bullets, but it's been through ballots. Their moves right now are very brazen, even on the elections. I mean, they're literally installing with election fraud communists. Okay. They're making some pretty brazen moves here in advance of President Trump shutting down their election fraud system. Now, Nino, that there's an investigation multi-year into their election fraud system. Yes?
100%. Yes, I know that.
Well, and they know that he knows. So they're in their last ditch efforts right now to just through election fraud. You saw it in LA, right? You're seeing it in New York, that they're just flat out installing communists.
Right. That's what's, the arrogance.
Yeah.
Like they're not intimidated at all.
They're not. And that's where I think President Trump is saying they're making their moves. They're just right out in the open saying we're going to do everything and anything.
So are there going to be, the ICE raids? Let's just talk about the ICE raids for a second, taking down the terrorist cells, the whole thing. Are they going to be activating the cells now? Is this about the time they're going to do it?
Well, this is what I was told. Todd Bensman now works for Holman. He used to come on my show and I would interview him. An expert in this area. He said that the Obama-Biden regime had full operational control of everybody that they handed a cell phone to. You know how they had their apps and they got their cell phones?
Yep.
They could send out a text to 1,000 Tren de Aragua and they show up at your house.
Holy shit. I mean, but obviously that's been, no more. But I'm just saying, right?
Right.
Right.
But they have control over these cells. They can activate them. They can have them show up at my house. And what am I going to do? All I have is propane tanks,
Well, let me ask you this. So do you think, there's going to be a strategic type of effort here, simultaneous effort to when they pull the trigger is going to be all systems go, like mass shootings all at once. Infrastructure gets taken down. Do you think it's still at that level, or do you think we got most of them out of the? Do you think ICE got most of these bad hombres, organizers, leaders, cartel henchmen, or do you think there's still a lot of wild cards out there, man?
Oh no, they are sitting and waiting. They have thousands of people. All right, imagine it costs $500,000 to launch 9/11, and look at what the impact was. Right,
That's all it cost.
$500,000.
What?
Right? Yeah, 500,000 to perpetrate 9/11. That's what their total operation costs. Well, guess what they've been doing? They've been shipping to Afghanistan since the fall of Afghanistan, upwards of $80 million per week to the 700 to 900 NGOs in Afghanistan. Well, those NGOs are run by the Taliban, and the Taliban has been actually funding and fueling the terror training camps in Afghanistan that Hamza bin Laden is running, and they get $80 million a week. So what do you think they're going to do with that money, $80 million a week for the past couple of years?
100%.
They got a lot of money.
And here's another thing too. I've had visions of this, like epiphanies of this, like even 6 years ago. Obama's going to be the left hand. He's going to be the superhero, the leader of the left. They're going to really rally behind him when Trump starts going after him. How the hell? I mean, it's almost going to be like a country divided. It's going to be Obama versus Trump. And it's going to be, a lot of people are going to be very, very angry when everything starts, when all roads lead to Obama. That's where I feel the civil unrest is going to come, is really going to pick up. And I feel like there's going to be race wars, blackouts, infrastructures, America's infrastructure getting hit, civil unrest. I mean, that's the type of shit that I see. And they're going to do their best to protect Obama and make Trump look like the bad guy, right? And so how do you see this playing out?
Okay, here's the other side of what you just said, right? That's a possibility. As a matter of fact, there was more possibility after the 2020 election that if Trump declared the Insurrection Act, we did not have, they would have put the blame on Trump that he was trying to seize power, right?
Right.
They told that story about Brazil. Look at what they did in Brazil. The country of South Korea on June 3rd had their election stolen. The president, as well as the military generals, declared martial law. Their Supreme Court got together and arrested the president and the generals. So we have a very volatile situation where even if President Trump says, I'm going to make a decision and I'm going to use my military to overpower this situation, that could set something off. Now, there is a group of individuals. They're called the Society of Cincinnati.
Yeah, you told me about this, right?
It not only exists, I'm understanding some of those generals went to meet with Netanyahu in Israel. There's a picture out there that former generals got together. Those are Society of Cincinnati generals that have been operating behind the scenes. They are the ones
that would be the Q team, basically.
And the Q team, I'm familiar with continuity of government. I was in the Marine Corps. The nuclear arsenal is protected at the Q clearance level by the Department of Energy, right? So the Q team is very, very real. But those generals with through the Society of Cincinnati, basically have brought President Trump up for this moment. When he starts hinting and saying that he's prepared his entire life, they've been telling him for decades that they needed to bring him up. He's uncompromisable. And we heard rumors that these generals groomed him for this moment in time. And I think that's what Trump is hinting towards right now. Because mass casualty events is what they need. They need to, for full impact. Going to, God bless all the people that are attending the World Cup events, but going to large events where you could be subjected to a mass casualty event, stay away from that. Stay away from large crowds. Stay away from them all. You're literally a sitting duck. They could activate all their cells and attack schools all in one day. Those are mass casualty events, or attack malls. because they want to impact psychologically. I'm understanding and intelligence through, I don't know if you guys know who Sarah Adams is. She's got a great intelligence network. They are looking to perpetrate something that's 50 times larger than 9/11. And
Jeez.
that's from intelligence coming out of Afghanistan and the Middle East. They're getting ready. It'll make 9/11 look like a party compared to what they want to do. Imagine a 9/11 coast to coast in every major metropolitan area. Malls, boom. I mean, things like that. So, to your question, stay away from large gatherings, absolutely, and have full situational awareness.
Secrets. We get Sheila Holm back with us once again. We're going to be talking about what's going on in the world and maybe a little biblical light versus dark, because we like that kind of information. Sheila's really well informed about that. So, Sheila, it's great to have you back again. Thanks a lot.
It's so exciting because we haven't been together since May 17 when I went to DC, have we? And then I went to the First Nations. We haven't been on about any of this, have we?
No, I usually do like one or two a month, but I think we skipped a month.
Okay.
A month, yep.
Well, I got a lot of exciting news for you. Did you know I did a 10-page letter to the president before the rededication? He was going to rededicate it to the King James landing. And King James paid for 3 ships to land in Virginia. But he did that after he stole all the land and the assets and the money from the Pilgrims. And then he jailed them 3 times when he took the information from the captains and let the captains keep the money from the Pilgrims. And so he had all the information. He had everything. But they'd already burned their pastor at the stake. Because what people don't understand is if you're not part of this Gentile pagan worship structure church, you're not safe. You're not, because the societies take oaths to those same dead gods that the pagans and Gentiles worship. I mean, Nimrod, the great grandson of Noah, was deified in Egypt as Osiris, the Osiris that all these obelisks are about. I mean, if we knew the truth, but King James knew the truth. And he came and he burned down some Native American stuff to start British settlements. And people said, oh no, he came in 1607 and it was before the Pilgrims and they wanted to evangelize in America and other nations. The Native Americans are the tribes of Israel. They don't need evangelizing. The Pilgrims didn't need evangelizing. So that's not why he was doing this, guys. He already knew everything. He already stole from them. He already jailed them 3 times. And so I had to send a letter in because they were going to honor the 1607 landing. And right now it could still be on the website of the White House. There's 17 proclamations on the White House website that they are Paula White has put together and asking us to pray about. The very first one is the 1607 landing. And guess what number 17 is? George W. Bush's 9/11 prayer. And we know who George Bush was regarding 9/11 because his name wasn't even Bush. And so I had to do it. So I did a 10-page letter. And guess what? Within 24 hours, they canceled their hotel rooms and they were still trying to cancel their flights within 24 hours of that letter getting to the president. And I just love this. When we talked about Rome, Georgia, and I told you guys about that Secret Service agent that helped me and everything, and I knew him, and he said, well, I'm not just in DC, I'm in Mar-a-Lago. And I said, I think I know you more from Mar-a-Lago. And he said, well, I go back and forth with him. And I said, but I never knew your name. And he said, it's easy. It's Swan with an extra N. And so who signs for my 10-page letter when I pay to overnight it to the president because I was that concerned about the rededication? Swan with an extra N. You know what I mean? You can't make this stuff up. And I mean, it's just crazy. What a gift. And that was 9:15 in the morning. And by noon, I got a phone call from someone on the Branson Project. And I don't know, I don't think we've even talked about that project. There's a new Branson project. There's going to be thousands of acres. And the owner of this project, and then I'm going to tell you what the project is, it keys around the Faith Monument. And that's why they want me involved as content coordination, et cetera. So we're talking because I said, sir, you've been talking about this. So what would it take? And he said, well, I got a major business, I need to sell it. And my next business, I got to sell that. And then with all that done, then I need the right paperwork to sign for finalizing on the land. I said, okay, then that's the prayer. We thank you, Father, for these 3 things coming into position, because everybody talks about stuff and they know there's stuff that isn't finished yet to make the stuff happen. And so I said, let's do that. Guess what happened? 1 week after, his first business sold. Within the next week, the next business sold. And while we were where we were just a few days ago, the land all got finalized, and now he's got all that paperwork signed. All of that happened in a matter of 3 weeks, all in the order of the 3 he gave them to me.
Wow. Yeah, that's unbelievable. Very nice.
So those people called me, and they're the ones that said, you're not going to believe it. We just heard from these 1607 people who want to be part of our Branson project. And we said, no, we're going to stay with the Pilgrims and the Faith Monument, et cetera, et cetera. And they were furious because something had happened, and now they feel they've been shunned and disinvited because they're not going to be on the platform with the president. Well, the president wasn't on the platform either. And so anyway, within less than 3 hours, by noon on that Friday, they were ending their plans, and they had plans for 8 weeks to be there with 10 people.
Wow, man, good stop. So
it's just exciting days, and I've missed you guys. And we only got to see each other for seconds in Vegas. It was like everybody was swarming us while we were there. If you get up for a moment, then you're going to take 10,000 pictures, which is good. I like to take the pictures, and here we are. Well, I've got to say something about this one, Jaco, because this is someone that I've known for a long time in Reawaken. And it was so funny. She goes, oh my God, you guys come on over here. We found Sheila. And then they go, oh, wait a minute, there's Jaco. And everybody rushed over to Jaco. And I stand there by myself, and they go, Sheila, you can come over and join the picture if you want to. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll come over. I'll join the picture. But anyway. The good news is I got the same hug from Jacob that they got. So that's the good news.
Yeah, that was a good time. So what were your takeaways from that event, the Fraud Fighter Summit?
I think Pete Santilli's on fire. I thought that was spectacular. In fact, there is a picture of Trennis Evans on fire. I'd sent that to Stacy during the event. Have you seen it? Because I can see if I can load it up and bring it up. So Trennis Evans is speaking, and he's holding the microphone, and somebody, I don't know if they did Photoshop or something, and there's this huge plume of flames in front of him. But I haven't seen him as excited and confident. And on top of it, I told him it was just so spectacular. So he had me come in the green room. Next thing you know, this guy's putting a camera in my face. I said, who's this? And I'm sure the same thing happened to you. And he said, well, I'm Real America's Voice in Vegas. I'm their camera person. And so I'm here to help Trennis get the interviews done. So I met the premier, or was it the prime minister or former prime minister that was just put through a horrific election in Seoul, Korea. And I didn't know that was his wife. She leaned into me and started talking to me, but didn't speak much English. And so a gentleman came over, and I said, are you the translator? And he started laughing, and he handed me his card. He said, no, I'm their attorney. And he said, I'm here to help them. So they're interested in what we were talking about. So I have to get information to him. And then Trennis just kept interviewing me. And then boom, Pete Santilli. Now, Pete Santilli is so on fire about all of this. Now, here's the funny part. Pete Santilli said, you seem familiar. I said, sir, we go all the way back to before Ruby Ridge. We went all the way back to Bundy. And he went, we go back to Bundy? I said, we were on National Republic Radio out of Texas at the same time. We were on interviews together. But you didn't know me. But I'd already heard about you, and he was so famous about the Bundy case, right? And so he said, well, what was your part in all of that? And I said, because of putting some judges away in San Diego. And he goes, all this is sounding familiar. And I said, Pete, there have been 5 times in the past decade you were going to interview me. And it's okay. We just haven't done it yet. And he goes, give me your phone. You know what I mean? So there was so much more depth to this. And Juan said, what did you think of the whole thing? And I said, it was depth. Then I noticed there were some contradictory things. There were speakers who have personal information, but they haven't come together with other people to find out how it relates to other things. And so they were saying it from a personal perspective, and it didn't quite match what is actually going on. And so I said, so there were some of those contradictions. And he said, I think you'll always have that between people, and it's good to sift things out. And I said, but the audience is beyond this. The audience, didn't you find that the audience is just gung-ho, ready to go, ready to get things done, on fire?
And it was, I think once they were looking at maybe 500. I think they had 800 people there.
Yeah. Well, it was over 700 before they ran out of hotel rooms.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was great. It was great people. And yeah, the speakers were like over the top. And, you know, we're seeing that the fraud is not just in one area, and they're using it the same throughout everything, through the bond fraud, the school bond fraud, the election fraud, and then the fraud with the, big pharma. So they're all connected. They're using the same programs, using the same manipulations, everything. It's crazy.
Well, and everything's the same on the elections.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie was about Bolsonaro, and the people from Seoul, South Korea were there because they just flipped their election.
They did the same thing to them. Yeah.
Identical.
Yep.
Identical. So
I talked about 71 countries around the world that got that have been compromised. Yeah. So
well, and how many were involved in our election? Wasn't it something like the similar number? But maybe the guys flipping in all these different nations are the same guys that are flipping theirs and flipping ours. Because I thought there was a figure of 71, 72 that were involved in our elections. Do you remember what one?
I don't know if it was that many, but there were definitely quite a few that were involved. They've been exposed. And then, of course, the election machines have been exposed. And I guess Michael and Dell, they just, Dominion voting machines just dropped their $1.5 billion suit against him. So that's a big tell.
Exactly. But do they have to pay his attorneys after putting him through this, or how does that work?
Yeah, I know, right? so that would have to be a countersuit.
Yeah.
And I guess, Fox News, they paid out. So whoever paid out is like, or did they pay out? Or was it some kind of agreement where we'll say that you paid out so that we can continue this facade of, going after people and trying to get money from them? I don't know. Wow.
Well, that whole rededication thing was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And then I went right from the rededication and I went over to First Nations. And First Nations was in Kansas, and I grew up in Nebraska, and right by the Missouri River. I'm up in the northeast corner in Missouri River area of Nebraska, and it forms the formation of the state line across the top and down. And so here we were, and I did not know there was a Kansas River. So where they gathered was exactly the convergence, because they want unity. They want reconciliation and unity. And so the Kansas River meets the Missouri River right at that point called Kaw, K-A-W point. And that Kaw point is representative of the convergence of those two rivers together. Because once they merge into, you can't, and they showed us, I mean, we went and looked at it, and it's not like other waters in the world where one stays one color and one is different. It's a complete convergence. You cannot tell the difference between which river is which river when you're looking out over the river. It was just flat out amazing. and people were invited from all over. We even had Inuits from up at the Arctic Circle who came. That's the first time they ever came. But it was such a powerful thing. And they shared this most amazing prayer, and it's called A Power to Forgive. And what's really even more amazing about it, and that's what I'm sending to the president this week, is that they were doing this in February and October. They gathered as a huge group, went to DC, and prayed this over our nation 2 times in 2016 because that election was so critical. And so they understood it, they knew it, and et cetera. And what's really powerful about it is that it explains how what they went through was so horrific, but that's centuries ago, a couple of centuries ago. But they had already been here for hundreds of centuries. You know what I mean? So they'd been here since 612 BC. And then in 1804, they started being forced out of their homes and off of their land, and nobody would stand with them and nobody would unite together. And so what they did in this prayer is we've got to remove those atrocities that happened, have happened. And we have the power to forgive. And we're here to forgive, seek reconciliation and unification, even for those who were unwilling or unable to be here to do it. Because they wanted to clear the slate, because they knew it was going to be a major, major time in our country, because they've watched all of this. You know, they've seen it from a deeper perspective, because we were all like, oh my God, did you see what happened in 2008? And some of the people lost their homes, and now they're losing their farmland, and you know, and it was just pieces of people around the country. These guys were all disembarked from absolutely everything. And there's never been total forgiveness. So that power, power to forgive, I don't know if we can bring up that prayer. That was so powerful. And this is a woman, she spoke it in her native language and then provided it to me in English. And as I was leaving, she said, "You are not leaving without a picture." And I see, Jaco, you weren't there. So otherwise you would have been, you know, she would have run to the other side of the parking lot to see you. But because I was leaving, she said, "You can't leave without us getting a picture." And then she gave me a copy of this spectacular prayer.
Wow, that's beautiful. And you know, I see in the chat, and we've seen it in a lot of shows where people are pretty angry about our country being taken over. But the anger, guys, will never serve us. The prayer and, you know, working within a system to take down evil is more effective in the long haul. But yes, there is unfortunately possibility that things have to go kinetic. But at this point, they don't. We still have the power to, you know, through prayer, through actions and so forth, we, the people, getting involved. That's been the biggest problem, I think. People just haven't been getting involved. And I know a lot of people say, well, what do I do? It's like, what do you do? Are you kidding me? You become active. You become an activist. You start to march. You start to gather with people, and you start to, you know, talk on social media and share and do those types of things. As you and I, Sheila, have been, you know, demonstrating. It has done incredible work to take down a lot of stuff out there that was false. Like you were just talking about, they're going to have, you know, this group come in there that was, are you kidding me? So you called it out and stopped something that was going to be, I think, very negative. So it does make a difference when you get involved, but only if you get involved. If you watch and bitch and complain and don't do anything, it serves nothing. It's just a negative energy that spins out there with other negative energies and keeps all this stuff from actually transpiring on a positive level.
Well, I don't know if I can make this larger, but I can pull up a copy and go over some of this if you want to, because what's so interesting is it matches us. They did it to them. They've done it to races. They've done it to generations. They've done it to and they're always doing it to believers, because they got to get rid of the believers because they don't want the truth. They didn't want anybody knowing, and that's why they moved the Native Americans on the other side of the Mississippi. So when people said during those eclipses, and even General Flynn called a week before and said, "So Sheila, is the Mississippi going to split?" And I said, "No, sir, it's not going to split." I said the split on the Mississippi in this nation was when they sent all of the Native Americans to the other side of the Mississippi. That was the split in this country. That it's not going to be split of the river. So what the people are hearing, because a lot of people have been saying words without understanding the depth of what they've got. And a lot of people are saying words as though they're prophetic, and they might be, but they might be for you. They might not be for putting it out on the internet. But I had the most miraculous thing happen today. Yesterday, Juan came out with an interview, and the interview was about a crazy thing happening about Jaco and Sheila Holm, where somebody is sending all of our interview clip pictures and saying, that Sheila's got this top information and it's going to shake you to your core. And, and the guy's fake. The guy's the same. I think he's the same guy that
we never talked about. And then it's us in a video, and we're not clear in the video, and it's like that's that. I guess in some way that's how they can get away with it. But you can call them out. I guess you did. I've tried to call them out in the past, and I get my channels taken down for calling them out. So it's
well, I'll help you with my IP attorney. We took down that Rumble channel, and I think this is the same guy. It's the same bubble, a filter kind of thing over our faces on our interviews. And it's the same horrible audio transfers. So I think it's a guy that doesn't totally understand technology. He's just looking for clicks. But so the woman
the
on
they look for clicks is because they advertise something. A lot of times it's advertising for you to get involved with some kind of financial scam. And I know I've been saying it over and over again. We used to have to say this in the past, like 5-6 years ago. We used to talk about this a lot. It's coming back again. So I've been warning people about it, and I just had somebody say they just got scammed. There's no reason to get scammed if you're listening, guys. So we're not going to try and come to you and say, hey, invest in this, or, send your money to me and I'll put it in some kind of account for you. No, we're not going to do that.
Not going to do it. Not going to do it. So they were asking Juan about this question. And so Juan's answer was, well, Sheila's coming to DC and she's coming to a dinner that, he's talking about this dinner thing and everything else. So I sent, people were sending messages going, isn't this your third dinner you're scheduling with Juan? What's going on with you and Juan? And it was just kind of funny because it's all because we have to get where we need to get to, and we're not quite there yet. And sometimes you can't just do it by phone, or you've got to meet in person and get some things done. And that's what's going to happen. And so that's what I said. So then I answered, and I don't know if I don't think I've ever shared what happened the night when I met him, but the night when I met him, I said, sir, I'd like to take you to a cup of coffee, maybe give you a book. I just want to thank you because I had that heavy radiation hit, and he knew somebody from 3 Mile Island that had the specialist background that could help me get the radiation out of me. And so I was just so grateful because I could already tell a difference. I mean, just one appointment and I could already tell a difference. So I was so excited. And he said, well, you're 5 minutes from the Trump. I'm 20 minutes from the Trump. So why don't we just meet at the Trump? And so I go to the Trump, and I'm new to Vegas. Okay. And my car's in Albuquerque in the shop. So he only knows that car. He doesn't know where I am or what I'm in. And so I try to get over, and the taxi blocks the Trump entrance. And there's only one entrance. The very next one is an exit. You go in or you go out. I don't know. And so I missed that one. So I got to go downtown and do the U-turn. I come back and it's Desert Inn Road or whatever. And there's a construction exit. And the GPS on this rental vehicle took me on the construction exit. And I had to turn back around, go back downtown, do the U-turn again. So the joke was, Juan said, finally called me and he goes, so where are you? And I said, well, I'm almost there finally. And he goes, so what happened? And I said, well, I'm a high-speed mountain rally driver in California. I could do better on maps. And he goes, well, that wasn't in your bio. And I'm like, how'd you know about my bio? You know what I mean? Not thinking they have to vet you before they can meet you. And he said, well, He said, at least you're going to be here soon. And I said, yep. And I said, but I'm not going to know how to find you. And he said, well, why don't you just look out the passenger window? I'm like, look out the passenger window? And so I said it like 3 times. And he goes, please just turn and look out the passenger window. Because I'd never seen him in person. You know what I mean? So I didn't know who I was looking for. so there he was. So what happened is I ended up, to tell you the story that happened today about us, because this woman is watching our interview tonight, is that because she couldn't believe that I knew you in person. and so I was telling her that I need the wine, because what happened is at the Trump, I'd never been to dinner at the Trump, excuse me, by 22. And so once you want a glass of wine? And I said, well, that would be nice. I don't know if they serve Kendall Jackson. I'm from California, and we all drink Kendall Jackson Chardonnay. And we've got our own KJ Club. And he was laughing about all of it, right? And I thought, well, you know, it is a silly kind of thing, I guess. And so then the waiter says, well, ma'am, I can't help you with that. And I said, well, that's fine. I'm like this on water. I really don't need wine. So I'm really okay. And Juan goes, well, why don't you tell her what kind of wine you serve at the Trump? And he said, ma'am, we only serve Trump wine. I could have fallen under the table. You know what I mean? I was so embarrassed. And so then when all of this happened yesterday, I said, well, sir, after 4.5 years, I'm going to rectify what happened. I'm going to bring wine to the dinner, and I'm going to bring a bottle of Kendall Jackson Reserve and a bottle of Trump Chardonnay Reserve. And so I had it all planned out, right? So today I go to get the bags to bring them in on, and they've got one with a California map. It's so hilarious. I can't wait to. Now he's not going to know about this interview. Okay, we're not going to tell him, guys. And so there's going to be one bag that the California wine's going to be in, and then the other one just has arches of gold, and it's arches of gold all the way up. So I just thought that's the one we're going to put the Trump one in, so that I would be shocking him. And the woman said, "Why is this so particular?" So I told her this little story, and she goes, Do you know that guy? Like, you know that guy in person? And I go, yeah. And she goes, I've been following him for a long time. I said, have you ever seen our interviews together? And she said, you guys have been together? And I said, yeah. I said, do you ever see Michael Jaco? And she goes, oh, I love Jaco. And she said, I watch him all the time. And I said, have you ever seen Juan and I on there together? Because we've been on interviews with him together. Oh my God, I have to go and look it up. Or can you send me the links? I'm so excited. And I said, well, we have a live interview tonight. She said, with Jaco himself? Now, seriously, you really know these guys? I said, yeah, I know these guys. You mean you've been in a room with them? I said, I've even been in a room with them, and that was last week. And she said, you're with them weekly? I said, no. I was just with them last week at an event in Vegas. And it was just, and so the guy behind, I said, sir, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to take up your time. And he goes, I wouldn't have missed this conversation for anything. He said, I know the same guys, and now I know more than I would have known if I hadn't come in when you were here. I'm like, what the heck? But they had not been as active watching interviews lately because they felt that things were kind of stalled out. I said, nothing has stalled. No. But people don't understand it's military, and military is not on the 11 News. And I got to explain that. I'm from California, and News at 11 is where all the crazy stuff is revealed. So when crazy stuff happens to me, I go, thank God there's going to be no news about it at 11. And California is the only, I think the West Coast is the only place where the news doesn't come on till 11. Everything is 10 everywhere else, but it's 11 on the West Coast. And so I didn't even know that until recently. And so all of this, Jaco, the circle is getting smaller and smaller of getting us through with these people, because what are the chances that because of this experience here in Georgia, that these people in Georgia now are like, oh my God, well, then I've got to watch Jaco tonight. So they're probably both watching. I don't know, but I know the woman said she was going to be watching. So here we go. You know, I'm excited about where we are. I really am.
Yeah, very good. And it does seem like it's spreading, because we saw that event, and like you said, everyone at that event is super well informed. Mm-hmm. So another one coming up in September. That'll be good, because Juan's doing a good thing. Is to continue with those events. I think it's going to be very helpful, to bring us together, because every one of those events I get great contacts. I met you finally in person. So these events are fantastic. We didn't get to talk, unfortunately, but that's kind of the way those events are sometimes. I was trying to absorb the information and then make contacts. Some people were there to make contacts only, and they went to the green room and hung out. For me, I'm in the mix.
Yes.
I'm that kind of guy. Now let's look at that other post that you have here. So a decade ago, Chief Pettit asked his wife and sister to travel with him to help alternate driving so he could be in Georgia within 24 hours of receiving the first book in my For the Sake of America 1-5 book series. And after declining all invitations to Georgia the prior 20 years, Chief Pettit is wearing a wampum belt, the original Bible. Wow. The simple message of the wampum belt is the same simple message I have often shared. So you have A equals truth and life, M, God's gift and gifts, unity, one faith. So that's beautiful. I never even knew that. That's incredible.
Well, and what's crazy is we forget that we're God's gift to this earth. We've been thinking we're here in a mess and nothing is good about it. But we're here as his special gift, and he gives us special gifts to help us make it here as it is in heaven. And that's what the Lord's Prayer to the Father is all about. And what was really crazy is he didn't have the other books in the series, so I gave him the other books in the series, and he goes, now that you have surprised me, I'm going to surprise you. This was his surprise to me, because he's heard me talk about all of this stuff about get tight with the Father. The only way through is tight with the Father. Yeah. And those white tiles from those descriptive items to unity, those white tiles only come from that area on what we see on the right side, his left hand side. And those white tiles are the only thing that go up around his shoulder and come down into heaven. The others are all blocked. And he said, that's how simple the message is with the Father. And they never had another Bible. And he was thanking the Pilgrims for understanding, bringing the gospel. And then they had more to discuss because they've been gone since 612 BC. So when they came in 1620, they bring the gospels that they had never seen because they were just printed into English in 1500s, 1535 by Tyndale. And so they knew those stories because they lived with those people. And they have passed the truth on for 4,000 years. But this is how simple I've been trying to tell people it is. It's not the Sunday worship fellowship to all these other gods. We're doing pagan and Gentile worship. And so if we can share with as many people as possible, we've got the thing that's keeping us from uniting together is that there's now 4,200 religions in the world because every human interpretation becomes a new religion, and none of it is the truth. There's only good or evil. There's only two kingdoms. I've said this so many times. And when he made it that simple, oh, Jacob, I'm sitting there and I'm just blown away. I'm just blown away. And you would know a lot of the people in the audience because it came in from all over because everybody thought I was going to speak. I said, it's their First Nations event. You think I'm going to be speaking? But you're going to love this. Guess who the MC was?
What?
Doug Billings, running for governor of Kansas because it was held in Kansas City. I hadn't seen Doug Billings since his event in June of 23. And as soon as I went home from his event back to Georgia, I was invited to San Diego. And that's the first time I met you in person was at Truth Tour.
Yeah. Okay.
And Sharm ran out and got me. And she goes, there's space. You can come in and get a selfie with Jaco. I said, he wouldn't want a selfie with me. Oh, yeah. Come on in. Come on in. So we have selfie photos from June of 23 Truth Tour. I went back to San Diego. They thought I was still there full time. So they thought I would just stop by, so
very nice. Now we're in I think we're in biblical. I did a show yesterday with someone that's very biblical and spiritual, and I kind of let things come through. I didn't kind of let through. I just tapped in to God and just let him speak through me, and I believe that we're in biblical light versus dark. We talked about that many times. And I said that we're moving, and this was early yesterday. I said we're moving into probably catastrophic events. And it will probably hit those areas that have problems. They're allowing negativity because, as we know, the election theft has to happen so that they can bring people in these positions of power so they can allow all this other stuff to come through. And we've talked about it in both of these fraud events now. And it's very, very crucial for us to stop that, stop the bond fraud. Otherwise, the system is going to collapse. It's absolutely going to collapse. So I talked about, the earthquakes and so forth that are coming for these areas that are very corrupt. And then right after that, we had those 2 mega quakes in Venezuela. And we're talking about anywhere from 10,000, 100,000 people were killed. Then we had a big one, 6.9, I think, in Japan. They just recently had another 7.0. So this is leading us. And this usually when you have an earthquake, you have smaller earthquakes after that. The one that happened in Venezuela was a 7.1, followed by 7.5. That's wild. And on top of that, I haven't seen any aftershocks. Almost always after earthquake, aftershocks, I don't see any aftershocks. So that's very suspect. And then we across the Pacific, it seems like there's some kind of device or something that's warming the water up. And Europe now is having record-breaking heat. And they're talking about we're going to have massive storms. There's already been 2 super typhoons that have spawned from all that hot water that's in the Pacific right now. So, that's going to flip at some point, and we're going to get a lot of that coming into the U.S. So what are your thoughts on, biblical times? I think we're in them, of course. You don't have to be a biblical scholar to see that things are happening because of consciousness. In California, which I think is really going to get hit hard, and no one's standing up. No, they're allowing this theft, this corruption to continue. They have to get to the streets. They have to get in the streets. They have to protest. I don't see that coming in California.
It's not happened in 50 states. Nobody cleaned it up. Nobody cleaned up the primaries. Nobody stopped the machines. Nobody stopped the early voting. Nobody stopped the same day ballots. Nobody is following what the president told them they had to do in these elections. And I'm going to send you that link for that interview yesterday, because this is the first time I've heard Juan discuss about a potential pause of all of it, because you cannot move into a general election timeframe when the primaries are this corrupted.
Yeah.
When your candidates are not the right candidates. And he even mentioned a very unique phrase about it of, what if we allow all these candidates to really look at if they really want their names on the ballot, if they really want to put themselves, because those that didn't even qualify are committing crimes.
Good point.
Those that, we've talked about this. I mean, when it was the first time that anyone had gone through the whole thing with me, where all these past presidents, they didn't even qualify.
Yeah.
I mean, Bush isn't even their name, and they don't even qualify because their parents are not natural born. And I don't know, we have not talked about it since. Did you know that AI changed the wording? AI changed the wording of the definition of the term of what Sheila Holmes said in that interview, in our interview, because I haven't had an interview like what we did. And we went through, remember, we went top to bottom and explained the whole thing, that all these guys have been illegal. They shouldn't have even had their names on the ballot. They shouldn't have had the opportunity to run for president. All of this was wrong. And so now what AI was saying is that I was wrong, that all you have to do is be born in America. And Rubio was, and they used Rubio as an example because everybody was mad at me because they wanted Rubio to be the next president. I said, he can be that in Cuba.
Right.
because his family's from Cuba, but he cannot be the American president. And people say, well, I can't wait until, Barron, and that isn't going to work either. Both of your parents have to be American born. You can be in Senate, you can be in Congress, you can be in House and Senate. You can do all these other things. You can be all these other positions and all these different, because the problem we have, and that's in that first paragraph of that Power to Forgive prayer, they notice the same thing, because it's the government, the church, and the educational system.
Yep.
And when you take control of those and you decide, and the same people are running the show in all three, really? There's nobody else? Because people have teased me about putting that Titus 1 in the new book, because you have to have 2 elders who cannot be grifted or grift or be out of integrity or deceive the people. But the Takai, remember when we covered Islamic and we covered the term from the president that was so fun about the Strait of Hormuz? Is it the word Takai, were the Islamic deception?
Yeah.
That term is no different for the secret societies. And when they run your courts, they'll lie amongst each other and to each other.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll lose, because that's who they are for each other. And that all of this is against the principles of this nation. And that's why when Jefferson said, once the injustices, once the corruption is so deep that you've lost your original intent to even be a country, to be a republic, you can't fix it. You can't remove an evil and put another evil in, or put another something else in. You cannot do that. So this is what Juan was mentioning yesterday. And the first time I heard him say this is that he said there may have to be a pause. I don't know if it'll be a year and a half. And he said it may have to happen by September or October. And then I've always talked about the republic structure. The republic structure, we vote in the spring. The republic structure is a fresh start. The republic structure is when you vote somebody in to be president, they don't wait 3.5 months to let somebody ruin everything that they can ruin before you come in.
Exactly.
In January, you know what I mean? And he mentioned this, and I had forgotten all about this spectacular comment, the term slaughterhouse. Did you know that that's the date of the Tuesday in November after the full moon, he was describing the whole thing, and I'm like, what the heck? But the whole corporation was set up corrupt. Okay? But our whole church structure is corrupt. And guys, stand with me, because we can't let the president think that we're going to fight against the church because the church backed the president. The church didn't back the president. Believers backed the president. The church, I'll give you an example. Atlanta, Georgia. There's a tabernacle in Atlanta, Georgia, and the people wanted a speaker. So the speaker said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you go to your pastor and have your pastor call me? So the pastor called and said, hey, we really want you to speak. So the speaker said, why don't you go to your board of directors, trustee board? You have a board, a council, something? Yeah, we got a trustee board. Okay. So, guess what they are? A trustee board. You have a trustee board when you have a government structure, corporate structure in your church. And people don't understand. None of you are going to own any of these churches, because 501c3 means they're state owned. And that's why everything now is being evaluated with Daystar, because that wasn't their personal property. They were a 501c3. And when you're a 501c3, the state owns your business. So what's happened is these churches are all owned. So the pastor goes and talks to his board, calls back the next day and says, I had no idea that all of my board are 33rd degree Masons. He had no idea.
Wow.
From the very beginning,
right.
If you want to be a pastor in this town, you got to be a Mason. You want to be a butcher in this town, you want to be a banker in this town, you want to be an attorney in this town, you want to be the judge in this county, you got to be a Mason. Because they got to get you in to get you controlled in order to, And that's exactly what we said about Charles Joseph Bonaparte, is that he's got a merit-based system that you must meet in order to become a candidate. And only 4 candidates will any of the people ever vote on. So you think you got all these candidates on your ballot, you think you're voting on all of these things, but when it comes down to it, only 4 people in your entire community are people that you actually did vote for. So the whole thing has been set up as a municipality by Charles Joseph Bonaparte. The whole thing is structured. So if we look at that structure, and the reason why is we're Gentile and pagan worship with the Constantine Church. And people are shocked, like, well, how could secret society members be in there? They're all taking the same oaths. They're all in the club, and you're participating with people in the club because those feasts and festivals are not the Lord's. I've told you guys, Leviticus 23. There's a really precious document, and I just got the new ones in the mail today. Now I've got them till 31. I only had them till 26. And all of the feasts and festivals of the Lord, and yet they call them Jewish feasts and festivals. They're biblical festivals on the cover, but the feasts and festivals go all the way now to 31. And we're not even touching on that. So if you want God to tell you, yeah, come on into heaven because I know you, or do you want him to say, you did a bunch of things, I guess, but I never knew you? And that's what he can say to all of us. I was one of them, guys. I was a pew warmer. I did everything the church wanted me to do. And when I needed help, when I went through the hell with the FBI and the judges and the court system and everything else, everybody in the church spoke against me. I'd stay away from her. You're going to have the FBI at your door. I did, all this kind of stuff. And so all of this I've had to learn. And when fathers showed me that when they get upset with me, I said, they don't understand me. They don't understand what I'm saying. It's like they're disrespecting what I'm trying to say because they act like they get it and then they don't get it. And he said, nobody has ever disrespected or rejected you. I'm like, you're in the same room with me. And he said, I'm in you. They're rejecting me. And I'll never forget the feeling I had in hearing that, because I'm okay. If you want to get mad at me, but don't put something between you and the Father, because I want your soul to be whole. And so with all of this, like you said today, we're always talking about the dark versus light, and we cannot go into a general election because that's what was wrong with Bolsonaro in Brazil that we saw the film about, and Seoul, Korea did the same thing. They knew they were going down a slippery slope, and they went forward with that election anyway, and now they're a communist nation again.
Yeah.
They're not free. They're the same as North Korea. So
we're
all
getting
of
that in New York, and I guess they just had all these candidates that are communist. Didn't we fight against communism? And we're, we would never let communism in, and now it's just like they're all over the place. Seattle, New York City, mayors, and probably one in LA here pretty soon. It's deteriorating. So I agree with you.
Should we go into her background? Should we talk about Karen Bass? 1980s, blew up our Capitol in DC, and now she wasn't getting any votes, and then they do this,
Yeah. She went to Havana, I don't know, like dozens of times, something crazy. And then, of course, she was in Africa when New Guinea or something like that, when the fires were happening. And that's a pattern because we saw the same thing. Lahaina, the mayor of Lahaina was in Oahu, I think, meeting the governor, and then his town burned down. So they repeat these patterns. We can see their works, and it's very easy, but it's very hard for people to comprehend that people would actually do that. It's so evil. There's no way that someone can be that evil. Oh, they're evil, and they're beyond belief evil as well. And that's one of the problems that I have for California, because they're allowing children to be trafficked there on a massive scale. You stay in California and you do nothing, then you're supporting all of that, right? So I left California, right? I love California, but I'm not going to support that anymore. my taxes and everything go to pay for all that? No, it's not going to happen. So, so I'm on the outside trying to help Californians wake up, and they're not open to that. They attack me when I tell them, you guys need to like work. We know that there's problems here. Well, do something about it. Don't just argue with me about it.
Well, and I'm pulling up 3 symbols right now that are not in the book, but they're real similar to the student unrest and to our unions. This is how they've taken us there. We don't realize the connection. And all of these are in the Chicago area.
Wow.
All 3 of these. The education system, the teachers union, do you see the symbol? Do you see the symbol? Do you see? BLM was the black fist. Communism is the red fist. See the pencils in the fist for the teachers union? So it's not just the teachers associations, it's the education associations. The last one had connection with AFL-CIO, all the unions. It's how to control the people to get most of the people thinking the same thing. And all of it's a departing from the truth. They're not going to tell you the truth. They don't have a great future for you. They don't have a hope in a future. It's control and manipulation and deceiving and grifting, the whole thing. You guys, you were there, weren't you, on the school bonds? I think this is a good point to talk about the school bonds. We understood in California. And here's a funny part. Do you know, I think I'm the only person that ever talks about the Constitution in California. And people who are trying to change California haven't even read the Constitution of California. Did you know in the Constitution you cannot have a lottery? And they put lottery on the ballot like 5 elections in a row. And finally it just said it went through because it went through to pay for what? Education. You can't do a lottery in California because guess why? It's against the Constitution of California to establish a lottery in the borders of California. And so they did this. And then guess what they did? They started getting rid of all the regular schools. They built new schools, and there's no English speaking students in the new schools. They're all these, they're not like ship containers, but they're very modern looking schools. And they popped them up. And there's no parents or grandparents that can speak English to help these students. So then they didn't keep any English speaking teachers. Do you see some transition things that happened with the union that we weren't even watching? And when I saw this happening and friends whose daughters became teachers couldn't stay in California to be teachers, do you see where this goes? And then all the control and everybody's speaking whatever language, and there you go. So the lottery never helped retain anything about the schools in California. Never has.
No.
And it's still going on. Lottery's still going on in California.
Yeah, and where's all that money going? So you have the school bonds, which are out of control in California, the property tax out of control, in a lot of states, and in Texas, we might be able to get some resolution in Texas. We're hoping to. So we'll see what happens. If we get one of them to fall, then it's going to be they're all going to fall. It'll be, once we get, resolution in one of them, then everything is done. We have, a format that we can use every single state. It works somewhere. It's going to work everywhere. So this is what we're moving towards. So I think, and it's coming from grassroots, like we're talking about. It's just, several hundred people. It was like 150 of us, I think, in the first one, and this one had like 700 to 800. So it's growing. So you're getting more people that are getting involved, more people that are talking about it, more people that are sharing it, and it makes a difference. So Mitch Wexler was on stage talking about that, and we had a gentleman that was talking about the California school bonds. I've seen him several times. He's outstanding. So Mitch Wexler is basically saying that it's going to court. I think might be this week. or next week. I think he's got a sore throat. He's supposed to be on my show. There's a lot of people that had some issues from that show. So it's, those shows are very suspect. You got to be very careful at those shows. We had great security, but still, the directed energy weapons, like, you've talked about being used against you. I've had them used against me. So you have to be, super careful at these events, protect yourself. So
did you hear what happened to me after the event?
No.
I was taking off for Tulsa because there was a reunion of the Reawaken tour. And I thought, well, that's, like a halfway back. And so I may not be able to get there on the 18th, but the main days, it was meet and greet the night of the 18th. And then 19 and 20 was the event. And I just made it to Flagstaff to a gas station. I was in the gas station for 2 hours because I couldn't function. You didn't hear about this?
No. Wow.
Major heat stroke. And I had to spend 2 days in Flagstaff. I couldn't function at all.
Oh, wow.
So, but I'm taking ivermectin and I pushed through. It was one of the toughest, worst drives back possible because after 2 days of not being able to function, still today, I'm not hungry. And that's what you have to be careful of, guys. This is exactly what happened when I was targeted at Lynn Woods. You're not hungry because you're losing your oxygen. And then it gets so low that your brain function is completely gone. And it took 12 days. And we were all at the same event, so we watched it all follow through. So I'm hearing a lot of that, of people who, because that's what it is, coughing. I've had a lot of coughing, sore throat, exact same way it started back in 21 at that event. So, because we're trying to be careful with each other. We had amazing security absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
But here's another thing Juan mentioned yesterday is that for September, they have that huge area right in the middle that we couldn't have any seating or anything.
Yeah.
He's gonna remove it. Ahern's gonna remove it to make it a more conference center kind of opportunity. I don't know what he's gonna do with the cages in the back. Did you see the casino cages? They're empty. And that people said, well, why was this on? I said, picture that in the center, okay? It wasn't a big bar in its day. And then you have the game tables around it. Have you not been in a casino? I was just trying to explain to him. But he said there's going to be a lot of changes and all of that straightened out. But I really feel that we're going to know a lot more by September. They're trying to do a Sedona, Arizona event in October. I don't know how that one's going to go. Because I don't know if people are going to keep traveling to these. I don't know. Because I was hearing there was a lot of concern about all of the travel because it's going to get worse before it gets better. And it really appears that they're going to have to put a pause on the elections because people are not understanding the criminality levels of what happened in our primaries.
I totally agree with that. I think when I was talking yesterday, when I was channeling, it's like I got that it was going to be stolen again. So if we know that it's absolutely going to be stolen because like Juan and you and I have been talking about, we're getting down to the wire, and there's like you said, there's a lot of very fishy candidates that have been moved into position for elections. We can't have that. Craig Abbott, he should not be the governor of
No.
No.
But do you see the numbers? The numbers that they gave Pete Chambers, who was over the National Guard, who was over the State Guard, who was over the Texas Rangers, who's done all this research, who's been around this state. Everybody's been putting the word out about him. Okay, he gets 11% and Abbott gets 80%. But think back on Georgia. Georgia in the last election, Kemp never got votes. Nobody wanted anything to do with Kemp. Kemp wasn't going to run in that Mercedes, and he drives a Jeep, and he was given that car to take to that event, okay, in Pooler, and it already had.
I just heard that he was like taken out, and
he was. The explosion was so intense that an 18-wheeler went through the tires. I mean, the intensity of the explosion.
That was intended for Kemp, huh?
That was for Kemp's daughter's fiance.
Right.
Was given this Mercedes to drive down there, and it was set up as an explosive vehicle.
Yeah.
It was set up to be exploded at that location. It was all pre-planned. And so that was the warning to Kemp to, but the woman who was running, she got the 77%, he got 7, and it all flipped overnight, where he got the 77 and she got the 7. And there's no way. There's no way. He wasn't even really effectively running. And then when that happened, all of a sudden he's back in the race and winning. So we've already been there, done that. Do you know what I mean? Now here's the difference. And this is what that thing was about talking about, here's Jaco and Sheila and they're talking about insurrection and sedition. And guys, please look up the definitions. Please look up the definitions, because anything that you're doing that can alter an election, anything you can do, anything you're doing that's altering financial structure, that's stealing. And this is what Kash Patel is using these words all the time. They stole from the seniors. They stole from children in need. They stole from, because when you do that, when you're countering a program that's in place and you feel you have authority to do that, you're coming against a government structure. And when you're coming against a government structure, you're committing insurrection, you're committing sedition, you're trying to run it your way as though you're in charge of the government, which is the same as setting up a republic and saying you've re-inhabited the state of California, or you've re-inhabited Arizona, or you now are an interim governor in Georgia because you met in somebody's dining room with 12 other people and now you've re-inhabited the positions in the state. No one has the authority to do that till you have 66+%. You have to have 2/3 majority in any state to say you've got those positions. And there's no 2/3 majority in a lot of these primaries to even have these positions. I mean, 61 people running for governor in California. And they said, well, it was just kind of a jungle process. That process isn't even a lawful process to end up that way at a primary. I mean, there aren't that many categories or that many parties or that many. It was absolute craziness. So what we're finding is that we're tracking who's doing the insurrection and the sedition. Because once you do insurrection and sedition, and we've told you, and these people were warned in 22, in 24, we're now in 26. Nobody was listening. Nobody in the states cleaned anything up. Nobody got their constitutions ratified. Nobody's getting ready to clean any of this up. So that's why I think the button has to be paused. And I've said for a long time, you cannot have an election in 2026 when it's fraudulent before it's even in process. The candidates in the primary are not the candidates that need to be on the ballot for the general election. And the citizens know it. And so once you commit those crimes and you're notified, what's the difference with treason? One word: knowingly.
Yeah. So there was a video I just recently watched. This is Larry Johnson, former CIA. He's been to Russia quite a lot. He was a analyst in the CIA, so I love the analysts. They were like, they did such great work. I've listened to him for quite some time. Not a big fan of Trump. That's okay. There's some people out there that are like that, but he is delivering really good information. And I got the same thing that he got very like weeks ago, that Iran has the nuke already. That's been shared from Pakistan. So Pakistan has basically passed on that Iran is going to do a test of their underground nuke on July 1st or thereabouts. So that really changes things. So we have to be aware. We were trying to stop Iran from getting the nuke, but if they have it, that's maybe that's why we backed off. I don't know. I don't understand why we didn't just go and just annihilate them. What are your thoughts?
We're right at that point.
Yeah.
He's giving them a chance. Now, I heard there was an attack in one of the regular cities that gets attacked. I heard there was an attack. Was it in Israel? They went against Beirut.
It could be Israel went into Lebanon again. I think that's
Mhm.
probably what happened. And that's, of course, Iran doesn't like that because, they've spent so much money, building up Hezbollah. And, Hezbollah has killed a lot of American servicemen.
Mhm.
So they need to be decimated, right?
But
And
they-
the Roman term, decimation, is basically where you come in and you completely obliterate the enemy.
Well, that's where President Trump is at.
I think so.
They've got one chance and it's over. And the hit was done by Iran, but he said there were no injuries, there was no there was no damage, there was no so they did what they did, but it had of no consequence. And he said, but that's it. If there is any attempt to do any of this, it's over.
Yeah.
He made it very clear. And that was just within the last 48 hours. I'd have to go look it up. I thought I sent it out on Twitter, but I'll have to go back and look it up. I haven't quite been myself since that crazy sunstroke or heat stroke. It hit me by surprise because, guys, Flagstaff isn't even 4 hours from. I was loaded and gone, and it's not even 4 hours. I can always get to Amarillo. How can I not get to Tulsa, Oklahoma? It's a shock. So yeah, we're looking at it. We're looking at it as to what the effects are on all of this. But I'll look that up, Jacob, because I owe you that. Because now that I've brought it up into the space, I want to make sure I'm sharing it clearly, because Trump he's done with all this. They've given it everything. They've had their best bet. They've had their best opportunity. They say that the people are fine and that the people want what is going on, because he's not trying to dictate and decide what goes on over there. He just wanted to make sure because they won't arm themselves, because to them, they're making their own statement and they're not trying to turn it into a war on their land. But they've said, come and blow it all up if you have to. Because they're willing to start over.
Awesome. So we'll since you're got a little bit of cough, I've had a little bit of coughing several months ago after an event too. So I mean, they're constantly coming after us in different ways. So prayers that you're going to heal fast, and prayers from the audience that you're going to heal fast. His Best is your website.
Hisbest.org. Mm-hmm.
Hisbest.org. Okay, very good. So we encourage everybody to go over there and look at Sheila's work. She's got this great new book. You want to have it in your library. So it's definitely a challenging time, but as long as we're staying informed, as long as we're sharing information, I think we're going to be okay in the long run. But yeah, there's definitely challenges like you mentioned.
Well, and do people really want it done quickly if it's this bad? If it's this bad that they're still doing this, not following anything they were asked to do we want it to be what? I mean, what would that even look like if we just put things forward today? Yeah. I think we have to be realistic with each other that I'd rather have it all cleared up, because it's going to take decades for us to clear all the horrific stuff up, because it's permeated everywhere in our country. These are just a few interviews by topic. I did them like all the Georgia Guidestones ones together, the Christmas ones together. Good. Yeah. And this Faith and Soldier Monument. And I haven't put the eclipses and stuff on there because we're going to be modernizing the site. And because this wasn't working, it keeps moving different directions, and they're not in, because people know it was Guidestones, and then it was the monuments, and then it was, people know that, but people who are just getting to know me, I was trying to put them out so they could see them, and they just all keep moving, and we've tried to stop the scroll process of messing it up, but But I would so appreciate the prayers. The letter I'm doing now is we've got to all come together in faith. And I'm not trying to tell people how to believe, and I'm not trying to tell people who to have faith in or good. And if we don't do what the Pilgrims brought, because guys, if they would have done it, it was 500 years so that no generation of our children would ever be pulled into this again. Because they knew all of this. They lived all of this. Their generations knew every single part of what's happening to us right now. The Civil War soldiers knew. That's why they fought so hard, trying to hold on to that truth. So, and then it went right back with President Ulysses S. Grant. Everybody had faith in him because of being so amazing, you know. But Michael, I just appreciate this so much. I don't have anybody where we can just toss around subjects and we can float through so many subjects and we can discuss it all, because the depth that we can go and the information that we can share when we come together, I am just so honored to be with you. And I can't thank you enough. And I'm sorry we didn't even get the chance to break bread together while we were in Vegas. But
no,
yeah,
so
that has to change next time. It's got to change, because there's a place I want to take you, and it'll be really fun.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, we'll have to plan it, definitely.
Yeah.
So I like breaking bread with friends. It's always fun. It's good conversation and relaxing, and it's fantastic. So yeah, that'll be good. So thanks so much, Sheila. And it's great to have you on again. It's always amazing. You just go down such great rabbit holes and bring out such great information. It's not scary when they're not scary rabbit holes when you come on. So thank you.
There's answers to all of this. You know what I mean? But I know where people are at. People think, oh, if I could just think like Sheila does. This didn't happen in my early years. I wouldn't have wanted to work for me in my early years, because I was the only woman on staff and I had to keep proving myself. And I wasn't gentle at all because I had to keep proving to stay on corporate staff. And so I've learned a lot, and I just can't stop sharing it, because now that I know the truth, there's no other option. There's no other option. I've been brought through horrific stuff where the agents just wanted to know, how come we just want to know, how are you doing all this and not committing suicide? And I'm like, God is bringing me through. And, but I said, I don't know how many more are left in the we, because you have to retire as an agent at 53. And the judges and et cetera, those guys are so old now. So who is left that keeps erasing me from the entire system? They won't tell me who, and they won't tell me why, and they won't say how it's done. But according to experts, it takes a lot to remove an American from absolutely every part of the system, because we are just, they've got us totally hammered into everything in the system. So you can't just disappear from the system. And yet they've erased me twice already. So crazy. I just thank you, Michael. This is, every time I'm with you, it's good for me. I mean, it's just, you know what I mean? I hope everybody else likes it too, but it's really good. And everybody loves how we banter back and forth. I just really, really appreciate your depth, and you just make it very, very interesting for me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed it. I know you did, because we got some great comments in there and great views. So look forward to doing this again in the future. Thanks, Sheila.
Bless you guys.
Bless you.
And they told me that they had replaced Donald Trump, and that the new version, one controlled by the White Hats, was going to go to the G7 summit in France. And it is clear from the behavior of this new Trump that the people who controlled Trump until June of 2025 have reasserted control over the official U.S. Commander-in-Chief. He's not as good looking as the one who disappeared in June of 2025, and I'm sure he's not ever going to get laid with Melania, but it does look like the White Hats are back in charge. And this little recording of him speaking about Israel saying they wouldn't exist without America. Well, just listen to him talk about Israel. And that surprised a lot of people. People like Henry Mako saying, oh my goodness, he's going to get assassinated just like Kennedy because he went against Israel. But this is different this time. And it is clear that the U.S. military has been fighting. And these are the white hats sent around the U.S. Space Force who seem to have taken back control. And here's another sign. Take a look at Trump ignoring the Ukrainian dictator Vladimir Zelensky at the G7, refusing his handshake. Okay, these are important symbolic gestures. It's very clear that the United States military white hats have taken back control, but it's also clear that the battle is not yet over. So, for example, when I tried to access the Iranian National News Agency website to find out what had been agreed with the U.S. and the Trump administration and the Iranian government, the site was blocked. Okay, they're trying to prevent me from reading it. However, the official Xinhua news agency had the text of the agreement, and it's clear that the United States has promised to give $300 billion to Iran as compensation. What's interesting is, even though this official agreement was published, someone in charge of the Trump social media said, oh, this is fake news, I'm not giving $300 billion. So there's definitely a fight going on. It's not over yet. And the other thing I've noticed is that it looks like Ben-Gvir is the new strongman in Israel and for the Zionists. The Benjamin Netanyahu avatar is wearing thin. And this guy is not a nice guy. Listen to him talk about how they have to keep destroying houses in Lebanon. Okay, but more important is that after he made statements like this, he tried to get a visa to go to Florida. And he was refused. So this top Zionist guy was going to try to fly to Florida to see what happened with their Trump avatar and why he wasn't reading their script anymore, and they wouldn't let him into the country. And the other thing that's going on is that the agreement between the United States, or it's the, what is it, Memorandum of Understanding, makes it clear that Israel is not part of this deal. In other words, if Israel keeps fighting in Lebanon, they will be destroyed. And the Hezbollah say they have already destroyed 518 Israeli military vehicles and 85 warplanes. Okay, that means they're really close to the bottom. And you have people like J.D. Vance reminding the Israelis that without American weapons, they're toast. So, you know, it really does look like the tide has turned. However, and the key is this, if the $300 billion is going to be given to Iran, it means that control of the dollar system, the financial system, has fallen to the white hats. You know, because if it's still Howard Lutnick, and I don't think so. Look at him in this little video, how unhappy he looks at the new Trump speaking off script, or off their script.
I think Israel too, look, is that.
But if Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent and those guys and Jared Kushner have lost control, this is a very important thing. And there are other signs they have lost control. For example, it's, you know, now it looks like Peter Thiel has been outed as having his own little secret society with people like Kushner and the Secretary of the Army and, you know, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, on board, and they've been outed. So the big question, though, is if they've managed to take control of the dollar machinery away from these criminals, then we really do need to get working on much bigger issues than just getting the oil back. And it was a surrender, because Trump signed this agreement at Versailles, the same place where they signed the surrender in World War I. And he said so. If we didn't do this, we would have run out of oil in 4 weeks. The official U.S. estimate of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is 340 million barrels, which is enough for 17 days of U.S. consumption. So clearly, they had to do this in order to get oil. And now the price of oil is crashing. But the important thing is that the immediate crisis has been averted, but we need to completely revamp Western system of governance. Right now, support for major leaders in major Western countries like Germany, the UK, France are at record low levels. In the United States, according to a new Fox poll, only 25% of Americans trust the government. All right, that means that the government is no longer representing the American people. It's not trusted. It's not functional. And if we do not reform the system of economic and social management, China is going to leave us in the dust. Already, you know, the U.S. produces like 1% of what China does in terms of ships, 10% in terms of whatever. They've completely lost the economic war, and that means that we need to set up a future planning agency. The Chinese have got the support of 160 nations now for a revamp of the system of international relations that's more fair and that deals with issues that the whole planet faces, like Antarctica. And by the way, there's something very, very strange going on in Antarctica. I was reading news reports that the temperatures were 15 or 20 degrees centigrade, which is like almost 40 Fahrenheit above normal temperatures. And this is supposed to be midwinter, but everything's melting. And so I asked my Space Force contacts with Antarctica connections, and they said there's some kind of serious proxy war there using weather weapons between the white hats and the dark hats. This is a bit woo-woo territory, but the fact is that it's not normal to have temperatures 20 degrees above normal, and it was supposed to be Antarctic midwinter. So something strange is happening there. But getting back to the here and now, the Dragon family is ready to offer unlimited financing for the reconstruction of the United States and the West. All they're asking in return is, you know, to remove the criminals who've taken over, the satanic child murderers who've taken over your government. And that is going to happen. There's bioweapons, it's coming out every day, but we still don't see any arrests. So hopefully the White Hats, now that they're back in charge, they can go in, they can round up all the members of Congress who've accepted, leadership or obedient, who obey Israel like slaves, completely contrary to the wishes of the American people. Once they're arrested, we'll know this is really happening. But the fact that this Trump has changed everything he's saying is a very good sign, and we need to support him. And the other thing is that Christians need to get more active. I was just, putting together pieces, and it looks like they burned or destroyed more than 100 churches in France in the past year. In Canada, it's like 132 churches, and they're destroying churches in the UK. Christians are under attack everywhere, and it's not just Christians. In Japan, in the past year, 87 different Buddhist and Shinto temples and shrines were destroyed. So there's a serious fanatic group that is destroying houses of worship that they disagree with, and something has to be done about that. Now, getting back to the Middle East, a big question mark now is what's going to happen to Saudi Arabia. And this is important because this is a country where a man's testimony is worth more than twice of a woman's testimony. What that means, and if a woman is caught cheating on her husband, the punishment is they bury her up to the waist in the ground, and then they throw rocks at her until she's dead. So that means any guy can say, my wife cheated on me, and even if she says no. That's the sort of country that you're supporting when you're buying oil from these people. Well, the G7 just announced that they're going to try to get more oil from Canada. All right, I mean, Canada's not perfect. They're right next door. They're similar kind of people, and it's the Rockefeller brothers who've been preventing Americans and Asians from buying Canadian oil. They finance these fake First Nations activists, and they finance this whole fake witch hunt about, which is just false. But that's over now, and I do recommend that the United States start buying oil again from Canada and not from Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia is slowly going bankrupt. Even though they have now been able to export oil through the Strait of Hormuz for the first time since February, they're having to pay a tax of $1 on each barrel, and the Chinese aren't buying anymore. So they're in trouble, right? And with the price of Brent down at $75, they're about $40 under budget for every barrel they're selling. So hopefully they'll go bankrupt, because that is a country run by satanic crypto Jews. They should not be in charge of the Muslim places of worship, because they're not themselves actually Muslims. So hopefully something will happen there. But in any case, the Russians are moving up to set up a new regional association for the Middle East, and according to this agreement, the United States military is going to withdraw. So hopefully we will see the end of the satanic government in Israel and its replacement with the nation state of Judea, which would include all people from the region, including the native Judeans, misleadingly called Palestinians, as well as the immigrants from Europe, and they can live together in peace, which is what was supposed to be happening in the first place. And they can go ahead and rebuild their temple, because it's not on the ground of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's somewhere totally else where the original temple was. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is located on an old Roman fort, which is, these are the people this is fortress of the people who destroyed the Second Temple. It's not the location of the Second Temple. So please, wake up and check your facts, and let's get this show on the road, because humanity has been held back long enough. We have technology now that can allow us to live thousands of years. We have access to virtually unlimited free energy. It means we can stage a Cambrian explosion type event on this planet. We can all live like millionaires, even as we restore natural ecosystems. And all we need to do is set up the Future Planning Agency to figure out how to do it, because the technology's there. The only thing that's missing is good governance in the West. That's the only thing that's stopping us. So hopefully, with the white hats back in charge, we can finish this off, and it's about time. It is also clear that the American people at the street level are waking up to their controllers, which is making it impossible for the Zionists to keep the American people suppressed, no matter what they do to their top leaders. Take a look at this person recording so-called FBI agents coming to his house, just to see what I mean. So, if you run into one of these people, immediately turn on your camera, start recording, because they fear the truth, they fear publicity, they only get their power in the shadows. So let's all of us, citizen journalists, grab our cameras, and if you see one of these elites, don't let them get away. Film them, confront them. Let's chase them out of this country once and for all. All right, well, that's what I have to say for myself today. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Evan, we have our first question for today. So again, since it has been said the U.S. will be the last to remove the Satan worshippers from power, have other global areas already had economic resets and advanced sciences and medicine implementation? If the United States has this advanced space force, then some people in the U.S. must now have advanced technology in many sciences, including the medical field. Do you think that this sort of thing exists within the United States and it's just being hidden from us, or is the United States just not there yet because we haven't kicked out the Satanists?
It's clear that, according to the American Academy of Sciences, more than 6,000 patents have been suppressed for so-called social safety, national security reasons. So a lot of that technology is there. Anti-gravity is definitely there, and I've been trying to get some real intellect. The Chinese are definitely moving ahead in many different directions, and also in Russia, there's been incredible advances. But the real big breakthroughs have not appeared yet. We haven't seen anti-gravity being made available to the general public, but and also there's still a taboo preventing us from enhancing ourselves genetically, which is something we can do. I don't see why not. If we can create food out of hydrogen and carbon without destroying the environment, then why not have more people, and why not have them live longer? There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that. So the bottom line is a lot of the technology is there, but even if it's not, once we have a system of government that's actually working to make people live longer and be healthier and happier instead of the opposite, then it won't be long before we claim this stuff and figure out how to make it work. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Could you give us a quick summary of things that are currently going on in South Africa? Do you have any news from there as of recent?
No, I do not. So let me write about South Africa in next Monday's report. I'll do some research.
Hi, Ben. I was told that nothing big will be happening before July 4th. Are your sources telling you the same thing? There seems to be this idea that a lot of things are going to start moving very rapidly after the date July 4th for whatever reason. And maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what that reason is specifically.
I'm not the person behind the July 4th story, and I'll be honest, every year for like more than a decade, they always say, oh, something's going to happen on July 4th. It's already happened. I mean, the Trump avatar has been replaced with someone who has reached a deal with Iran to end the war and who is being critical of Israel. So it is beginning, but what we really need to see is control of the internet and the mega corporations taken away from these people. Hopefully that'll happen before July, but generally speaking, things usually slow down in July and August and then pick up again in the autumn. But right now there's definitely a big offensive going on, and the White Hats are definitely winning. But I don't have any specific information about July 4th other than that two major false flags are being planned and the White Hats are trying to stop them. But even if they do stage something, nobody's going to be fooled and think it was Iran that did it. They all know it was Israel. So hopefully, once they realize it's not going to accomplish what they want, they will back off on these plans, because all it will do is lead to Israel being destroyed. Next question.
Hi, Ben. People like you have said that Israel has lost or is losing a lot. And a lot of us, if not most of us, I think, hope that this is true. When it is true, does the land go back to the Palestinian people? And who takes the nuclear weapons that Israel supposedly has? And does Israel actually have nuclear weapons, or has this just been a scare tactic? How does this work?
Well, it is clear that if they had nuclear weapons, they would have used them by now, and I believe the reason they're not using them, and you know, the multiple insiders say they do have them, but the fact is they're such a tiny country that it's like someone living in a glass house throwing stones. If they try to nuke anyone, they will cease to exist. They'll become a molten glass area the size of New Jersey. That's all that's going to happen if they try to use them. But clearly we need to have an international peacekeeping force move into the region and disarm everybody and help, establish peace. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. Very interesting stuff recently coming out of Alex Jones, and I would like your opinion on him as a reporter and as to his credibility. Do you think he's on the right side of things? He seems to have teeter-tottered both ways in the past. What are your thoughts?
Well, I met him once many years ago in Chicago, and he seemed to be pretty sincere. I think that for a long time he had some constraints. He wasn't going to attack Israel, for example. I haven't been following his work recently, but generally his heart is in the right place, and he's helped wake up a lot of people. I would say when it comes to the truth movement, he's like a gateway drug. He gets people started on the right path, and then they have to dig further and deeper elsewhere. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself this week, and I hope to see you next week. And the following week, I'll be back in Canada and reporting from there.
Folks, national emergency looks like it's coming fairly soon. So Trump puts this up. Today's housing news conference and signing is hereby canceled until such a time as we pass the desperately needed Save America Act, which I consider to be a national emergency. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, here's my little prediction. Not going to pass. Not going to pass. It's not in the interest of the rhinos. It's not in the interest of the Democrats. They will lose the midterms. So this is not going to pass. So the next step will be for Trump to declare a national security emergency and sign executive orders. Where did you hear that first? Oh, yeah, on Nino's Corner. Juan O'Savin talked about this time and time again, folks. We're over the target. Bombs away. Okay? So this is what's happening. So this, I don't expect anything to get done here. That's just my opinion and my little prediction. I could be wrong, but I think nothing's going to happen with this. So he's going to have to go forward in declaring a national emergency and executive orders. Also, I just talked to Stuart Swerdlow. That video is coming up soon, talking about Russia could be on the verge of using tactical nukes against NATO. All right. Now, world is heating up, and we knew this was coming. We all knew this was coming. What will be the next steps for the Democrats and the rhinos, the deep state, basically, when Trump moves ahead with this national security emergency? I'm going to imagine they're going to have to pull the trigger on something. They're going to have to go to desperate measures. We can expect, folks, I'm telling you, the arrests are coming. Gitmo's looking really nice right now, and a lot of expansions. I'm telling you, folks, this is where we're going with all this. I promise you. The purge is beginning. It's happening. So now I looked at, I'm going to need Alex's help here, but the biggest move has yet to begun. It's happening right now in Washington. Remember this, Tulsi Gabbard fulfilled her obligations for the report. And for the most part, she did a great job. She got the report done on Fauci, the 2020 election, Russiagate, the whole thing. She's done her report. You got to look at this as a sting operation, steps, phases. Now we are in the next phase where Bill Pulte, I think that's his name. Alex, do you know how to say his name? Is it Pulte?
I think you're right. Yeah, Pulte.
Pulte. Okay, Bill. I got it right. Oh my gosh. All right. So Bill Pulte is cleaning house. Why is he cleaning house? So there will be no obstacles when the arrests come. Okay. That's why this is happening right now. So he's doing his part now to clean house. This is a complete sting operation, folks. What you're watching here is completely a sting operation. So, and also look, this is all lining up. The reminder that Trump just posted, if you want to show it again, Alex, posted today about a national security if the SAVE Act isn't passed. He's hinting, folks. He's hinting. He knows this is not going to get passed. He knows this damn well. But something feels very different in Washington this morning, folks. And I'm going to get into this. For years, Donald Trump has promised to drain the swamp. His supporters have heard those words countless times. But now many are asking whether we're finally watching the first real phase of that promise being put into action. Reports indicate that acting DNI Bill Pulte has begun a major shakeup. A major shakeup inside offices of the DNI, with dozens of career intelligence officials reportedly being removed and fired. This is good, folks. To supporters, this isn't just another personnel change. It's the beginning of a much larger operation. And that raises a fascinating question, folks. What if this isn't the end of the story? What if it's preparation? In other words, they're firing people to remove obstacles. So the next phase of the operation will be, drum roll, please, arrests. That's what we're seeing here, folks. So if an administration believed that major criminal investigations or high-profile prosecutions were on the horizon, one of its first priorities might be to ensure key leadership positions are filled with people it trusts and to remove officials it believes could obstruct or leak sensitive information. Whether that's what's happening here is unknown. I had to do that for FluffTube. But it's one interpretation that many Trump supporters are now openly discussing, and I'm bringing on my show. Could Trump be cleaning house before making much bigger moves? Could this be the quiet phase before a very loud political storm? And if you look at the thumbnail, that's why I put the lightning hitting the Capitol and all that good shit. Ah, yeah. Nobody outside the administration knows the answer, but the timing has people talking, folks. At the same time, another political earthquake may be developing, not inside the White House, but across independent media. Now, this is what I've been talking about for a while. The traders or the podcasters who have jumped ship, they hold a lot of clout. And I've been watching this. I've been watching this very carefully. And that's why I've been critiquing them. Tucker Carlson has declared that he can no longer support the Republican Party, saying there is no chance he can back a party he believes has lost its loyalty to the United States. That's an extraordinary statement from one of the most influential voices in conservative media. And Tucker isn't alone, folks. Candace Owens, along with a growing number of independent commentators, has built an audience that rivals traditional cable news. These personalities no longer depend on party leaders, legacy media, or political consultants. They speak directly to millions of Americans every damn day. These people hold a lot of influence, folks. So here's the question that I'm asking to my audience. Are we watching two revolutions unfold at the same time, or are we watching paid shills and traitors turn on Trump? This is what, is it any coincidence to any of you that they are now turning on Trump coming into midterms? You know, I see a new party emerging. Now, whether this is engineered, some of you think it is.
More from JFK Jr. today. He's dropping truth bombs. Your money is fake and they know it. Every dollar is a lie. Every dollar in your wallet is a lie. It's not backed by gold, not backed by silver, not backed by anything. It's backed by your debt, your mortgage, your car loan, your student loan. You are the collateral. Since 1971, when Nixon took America off the gold standard, the Federal Reserve has printed $23 trillion out of thin air. Every dollar they print makes your dollar worthless. In 1971, a house cost $25,000. Today, $420,000. In 1971, gas was 36 cents a gallon. Today, $3.80. Your salary went up 4 times. Prices went up 17 times. That's not inflation, that's theft. The quantum financial system. On January 27, 2026, Trump signed Executive Order 14201, strengthening American leadership in digital financial technology. The media told you it was about Bitcoin. It wasn't. Buried in Section 7, authorization for a gold-backed digital settlement system operated by the U.S. Treasury, bypassing the Federal Reserve completely. They called it Digital Asset Stockpile. Insiders call it QFS, the Quantum Financial System. Unhackable, traceable, gold-backed, every transaction tracked, every dollar accounted for. No more printing money from nothing. Who loses when QFS goes live? The Federal Reserve, a private bank that has controlled America's money since 1913. Not federal, no reserves. Just 12 banking families printing your slavery. BlackRock and Vanguard, $20 trillion in assets built on fake money. When the dollar is backed by gold again, their paper empire collapses overnight. Politicians and corrupt officials, every politician who sold you out, QFS tracks where money goes. Every bribe, every offshore account, every shell company, nowhere to hide. So you can say goodbye to the, secret transfers of money, probably using Bitcoin, because I heard that was created for child trafficking. kind of a hidden money system, an alternative money system for criminals. This is why they fight Trump with everything they have. It's not about tweets. It's not about mean words. It's about $23 trillion in stolen wealth that they don't want to give back. The gold is already moving. February 2nd, 2026, $4.8 billion in gold transferred to COMEX vaults in New York. Largest single transfer in history. February 14th, 2026. Fort Knox audit quietly authorized by Treasury Secretary Bissett. February 19th, 2026, Trump, we're going to look at Fort Knox. We're going to make sure the gold is there. Since then, there has been no audit, no verification, and no independent confirmation, only trust. But what if the gold isn't there? What if it was sold, moved, or never existed in the quantities people were told? What if the vault is empty? Well, that would make sense if it was empty, because they took us off the gold standard. And yeah, they're going to take the gold for themselves and then tell us it's there. And then, our dollar didn't need to be backed by gold anymore. So that would make total sense. What if the financial system the world has relied upon for decades is built on a foundation that no one has truly verified? These are the questions now being asked. Trump says he's going to look at Fort Knox and make sure the gold is there. If that door is open and the answers become public, the consequences could be enormous. Everything could change. The transition, according to this view, the old financial system is reaching its end. A system built on debt, money creation, and trust in institutions is being challenged by the idea of a new framework based on transparency, accountability, and tangible assets. Gold, accountability, transparency. Supporters believe this marks the end of money created from nothing and the beginning of a different financial era, one where every dollar is backed by real value and every transaction can be accounted for. If true, the transition would represent one of the greatest financial shifts in modern history. The old system is dying. The new system is being prepared. The world is about to find out which one survives. So he says the new system is being prepared. It's my personal opinion, and this is what Colonel Bosey said on one of his recent interviews, was that the QFS is live already. It's waiting. It may be operating already, but they're not going to bring us onto a new system and kill the old system unless the other one is there to back it up until they were ready to kill the old SWIFT system, which is what we're supposedly on. So I think everything's already lined up and ready, and they're just waiting. It's part of the operation, waiting till the right moment, right time. Who knows when that is? Hopefully it's soon. Trump presidency and USA cuts directly correlated with a conservative shift across Latin America. Wouldn't you know it? So USAID has been used for a lot. It's like a slush fund. Fauci used it to fund his research on gain of function and who knows what else. Also looks like it's used to fund operations to steal elections, propaganda. My goodness. From Clandestine, and this is on X. Important clip here from Yingst. Trump confirmed to him that U.S. nuclear inspectors will join the IAEA on the ground, and the head of the IAEA also confirmed this. Anything you hear otherwise is disinformation. We will test the nuclear material. That's what all of this is about. And don't forget, the nuclear material, the dust, it can be traced probably allegedly back to uranium-1. This is a good example of how the left tries to brainwash the public with words and like slogans. This is from Bad Kitty Unleashed. In 2020, I warned you that the Democratic Socialists of America, DSA, were already in office in New York through AOC. Move on memo to Alexandria Cortez candidate. Progressives, DSA must drop the term socialist now. Now, Move On is a large part of the Trump resistance. They had to dirty him to get their revolutionaries in. So, do you see they used the term move on, but it's really Marxism. And they're trying to come away, it says in this little memo, if we're trying to reform the Democratic Party during the primaries, we must not get entangled up with terms socialist and socialism, because people know what that means. These labels are forever ruined and waste of time. Consider swapping out and replacing with worker or labor and never looking back. And they call it the Labor Party in the UK. It sounds like, oh, they're fighting for the little people. It's really pathetic, but people will just vote on words, like, oh, that group is labeled labor, so that must mean they're going to fight for like the regular guy. It's just insane. Oil futures are now under $70 because of President Trump's peace deal to end the war in Iran, lower gas prices coming for Americans. And he said it all along. He said that it's just going to be a short-term thing where the gas prices are going up, but they will come down. And, Trump was right about everything. So, I believe it's going to go down even further. I long for the days when it was like $1 to get a gallon. I'm thinking we're going to get to that point again, hopefully. From David Nino Rodriguez on X, 05. 180 days from December 18th, expired June 16, 2027. Well, 2026. Law requiring penetration testing of all election systems. Not one state has been compliant, and all of them could lose their HAVA funds from the federal government. HAVA, federal funds, are the only way states can do elections. They must be compliant with the law, or they lose funds, and I think that's what's happening. Checkmate. He could literally declare an emergency based on that alone. Nino's right. He's absolutely right. And again, just because he posted in, today that he's not going to allow anything until the Save America Act is passed, and he considers it a, quote, national emergency, he declared a national emergency in some form. Who forms the will of the people in Ukraine? Medvedev at St. Petersburg Legal Forum. According to Dmitry Medvedev, the will of the people is the result of the will of international supervisors who profit from keeping those in power in Kyiv. There can be different options for changing this regime. Perhaps elections, removing that junta through revolutionary means, or even imposing control over most of the territory. Medvedev also emphasized that Russia does not recognize ICC International Criminal Court, neither does the US or China. Attempts of the ICC to have trial against Russia are not only illegal, but enforcement of such decisions could result in a war. So isn't that interesting? He used the term war, and it's all in capitals. Are we getting close to the scare event? Everything seems to be converging, doesn't it? All of these events we have expected to happen, the EBS, and we haven't gotten there yet. Who knows when that's coming? But, we have a national emergency almost being formally declared over elections. And then talk of Russia using a tactical nuclear weapon. So things are lining up. Why are so many people in the GOP just allowing for our country to be taken over by Muslims? Can any of them say no to Hamas's sugar daddy Qatar? Any of them? So what we're seeing play out in our country is Muslims coming in and building their own little parallel societies with Sharia law, and it's spreading fast. So it happened in France and the UK, and you see what's going on there. They're practically at the verge of civil war. So, but, remember, we're watching a movie. Things are scripted out for the most part, not everything. And it's up to us. We have to say no publicly. Here's a post from Juanita Broderick on X. This makes me want to puke. Communist Mayor Zohran Mamdani thanks Allah for more socialists winning in New York. Yeah, I mean, people in New York City, some of these really hardcore leftists type cities, the blue cities, sanctuary cities, they've got a real problem. They have been brainwashed more than most, and they are super afraid of being called a racist. You know, they're just programmed like NPCs. And you see what's happening. So the blue cities and states, you know, can show you kind of what happens when you don't stand up for what you believe and you are afraid to speak up, or you're completely MK Ultra, completely programmed by the mainstream media. I mean, a lot of people are, sadly. Another example of bias in the media. Juanita Broderick on X, you cannot hate the media enough. From Donald J. Trump, Mayor Mamdani pulled through 3 solid communists and has received loud and universal applause from the fake news media. Congratulations, Mr. Mayor. I went 16-0 last night, helping to elect wonderful American patriots, and the media doesn't say a word, of course not. They won't, because they're all propaganda arms of the deep state. It's supposed to be the watchdog, you know. It's not supposed to be the arm of one political group, especially one that's a foreign-led invasion, an infiltration, excuse me.
Here, try this on. Mike, that ought to do it. It looks very believable. Remember my favorite quote? If you say it enough, people will believe it.
Good morning. It's Wednesday. It's the 24th of June, 2026. So much is going on. So much is happening. And we're seeing that the light is exposing the darkness. Sometimes the darkness has been there well, I've always said the darkness has been there all along, but sometimes we get a few surprises. And I had a big surprise yesterday from a very dear friend of mine that I've known for over 30 years, and I've been to a number of their family weddings. They live in North London, and they're Jewish. Never had a problem with them before, ever. Amazing, amazing family. Yesterday, I took a phone call from them, asking me how I was getting on. Now, I thought it was unusual to get this phone call at this time, but I said, yeah, things are good. He said, I've been watching your videos. I said, good. I said, what are your thoughts? He said, you seem to forget something. Us Jews. Now, I've always regarded him as what I call a good Jew. A very good person. He said to me, you forget one thing. We control everything. We control the money. We control the courts. We control everything. Doesn't matter what you say. We're in control of everything. I said, maybe you were. Oh, no, he said, no. We still are. He said, you and your videos, they're nothing more than a little mosquito that will swat away. I went, really? I said, is that what you really think? He said, no, he said, we just swat you away and in the end we wipe you out. I said, really? I said, I might hang about. Bit of a shock for me, that one, because these people I've known for a very, very long time. I've never ever seen this side of them, ever. It's amazing when you put something out there, you create a reaction. That reaction was not the reaction I expected, because I always thought that they were good Jews. But the light is exposing the darkness. The darkness has always been there. And now we can see it. The light is shining in a very dark place, and they don't like it. Good morning, Drew.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. My first story, President Trump has arrived at the NATO summit as tensions remain high in the Middle East despite a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Iran. The summit is expected to focus on regional security, NATO defence commitments, and the next phase of diplomatic efforts, whilst both Israel and Iran continue to accuse each other of violating the ceasefire agreement again. Trump has urged both sides to maintain the truce and avoid further escalation.
Well, Trump is over there for a purpose. NATO's days are over. NATO was there as a peacekeeping force. That's what it was created for. Many, many years ago, but it's become an aggressor over the years. And this is why Trump will end NATO's control, their rule, because very simply, Ukraine was never ever a part of NATO, but it wanted to be a part. So why was NATO even involved? It was because there are certain influences out there that forced it to happen. These are the warmongers. These are the people that make money out of war. So NATO got involved in a war it was never, ever a part of. And there's many people out there, many people who are watching this now, who know people who get involved in stuff that's none of their business. And the world is full of busybodies, and NATO is another busybody. My next story made me smile. Elon Musk. What a character. He's put out there that if we have solar panels in space, they're far more effective. The minute I saw that, I had a little laugh. Solar panels in space. This is to wake up the thick boys and the thick girls. Because going back 150 years ago, Nikola Tesla worked out that you can take free energy from space. Obviously, Elon Musk's brain is preparing you for the fact that we can get cheap energy from space so that you're prepared for what's to come. And we'll go back to what Nikola Tesla found out, that we can take all the energy we need to look after us in our houses from space for free. This is why spires were built on churches. This is why buildings were shaped like synagogues are built the same way. People never question why. It's because that you can take energy out of the ether. Not with a solar panel in space, but it's just preparing your mind for free energy on its way. Things are changing, and things are changing fast. Keep your eyes and ears open. It's going to be fun. Drew.
Next up, President Donald Trump says his administration is working on a national right to carry law that would allow concealed carry permits to be recognised across all 50 states. Speaking at an NRA event, Trump said the proposal is aimed at strengthening Second Amendment rights. The legislation would require approval from Congress before becoming law. God, we need a bit of that over here in the UK, Charlie.
Don't you just. And the reason that the right to carry is not so that you can go and kill people. That's not what it was put in place for, and it still isn't. It's there to hold corrupt governments accountable. And in the UK, because there is no right to carry, the levels of corruption in government and mainstream media, they're part of it, and the judicial system has got out of hand. If you were able to carry guns in the UK, these people wouldn't do half the stuff they've done and get away with it. Because at the moment, London is the knife and rape capital of the world. But you're not allowed to carry a gun. A little bit of common sense is needed here. There's a lot going on right now. So just be careful. Because the right to carry, it was about holding corrupt governments and media accountable. And in the right possible way. My final story is just a little bit of humour. We mentioned this before. This is the 24th of June, 2026. We've got 10 days until the 4th of July. Will there be 10 days of darkness? And what does that mean? I'll leave you with that thought. For more, You'll see us on the Insiders Club this evening. We look forward to seeing you there. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you this evening.
This is from Daniel R. from Telegram, and it's his war report, June 24th, 2026. Interesting topic for the times we're in. Strategic Analysis Report, the Global Sovereignty Cascade, the synchronous legal liquidation of the corporate matrix, the international receivership cascade via the UCC process, the simultaneous transition from maritime law to land law, and the activation of constitutional sovereignty outside the USA, legal operational design, international structural purification. Number 1, deconstructing transnational corporate statehood. Administrative exploitation of the human family within the legacy system relied upon a worldwide commercial deception architecture. National administrations outside the United States operated in the shadows, not as sovereign entities under international public law, but were registered as subordinate subunits under the legal umbrella of the U.S. corporation, founded in Washington, D.C. in 1871. Constitutions were transformed into mere corporate terms and conditions within daily routine, while the living human being was systematically pressured as a lifeless legal person, strawman, via taxes, case numbers, and the commercial venues of the bar judicial cartel. Within the ongoing transitional corridor, however, this global corporate network is being liquidated at its administrative root. The frequently voiced concern that the transition to sovereignty outside America could span years disintegrates upon a sober analysis of the international legal grid. Since all European administrative frameworks, including the Brussels apparatus and subordinate local governments, are inextricably linked via commercial law, UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, and the registry model of the New York Securities and Exchange Commission to the parent corporation in Washington, that the Allied receivership triggers a synchronous chain reaction. The dissolution of the primary parent corporation strips the subsidiaries worldwide of their legal legitimacy at the, listen to this, exact same moment. So it appears like every country in the West, the Western countries like the EU, Australia, they're all tied to the U.S. corporation. And once the U.S. corporation is completely dissolved, at that moment, because of UCC, Uniform Commercial Code law, it, dismantles everything underneath, and it looks like everything is a subsidiary of the U.S. corporation. Interesting. Number 2, the mechanics of the simultaneous shift from maritime law to land law. The physical and administrative collapse of the global corporate matrix does not require staggered operational phases, but executes as a simultaneous migration of jurisdictions. This global systematic shift relies upon clearly defined tracks, the frameworks of universal martial law. While the executive cut stabilizes the civilian theater, the DoD Law of War Manual engages in the shadows. National defense forces and security apparatuses are placed under Allied Supreme Command via continuity of government protocols. Any illegitimate statutory and commercial law utilized by the expiring corporate administrations instantly loses its executive enforcement capacity. So under the Law of War Manual, so does that mean that the corporate U.S. corporation was already dismantled, and that's so for all the other countries underneath it? And we are under martial law, to my understanding. So are we under continuity of government now? And in an operation, but behind the scenes, everything's been done. The U.S. corporation has already been dissolved. I guess we'll find out. The synchronous reactivation of land law. Upon the expiration of the commercial maritime law software, all nations worldwide return to the jurisdiction of genuine constitutional land law, common law, at the exact same moment. For European populations, this seals the immediate liberation of the soil, enabling the activation of their original Verfassung. That's just a big word there, isn't it? Verfassungsmäßig frameworks, such as, I know I destroyed that, such as the indestructible baseline of Article 146GG, to bring the first genuine state order chosen by the populace in free self-determination into effect. The financial strangulation filter. The legal transition is enforced by the uncompromising logic of the new financial hardware, operating via the ISO 20022 standard. The asset-backed quantum financial system abruptly drains liquidity from the legacy fractional reserve banking system because the QFS exclusively authorizes transactions between asset-backed and constitutionally legitimized structures. And that's the key there, constitutionally legitimized structures. That goes for these corporations and the U.S. corporation. So the QFS, which as we allege is already running behind the scenes and ready to go. So in the military operation we're in, going by that theory, since the QFS is already in the background, so we think we're on the SWIFT system, but we're not, allegedly. And in the military operation framework that we're in, we're watching everything play out in a slower version, a slower timeline to wake up the masses and not freak people out, aka in a military operation. And so are we moving closer and closer to the point where it becomes public and it's announced, becomes operational, like we stop being under continuity of government and we're under, we're under common law, finally, completely in the open? We're going to get to that point. I'm wondering if it's after the EBS. Does the EBS decouple us from the senior executive service? These are all questions. I don't know. But that's, kind of what it seems like. Because the QFS exclusively authorizes transactions between asset-backed and constitutionally legitimized structures, the insolvent corporate states become physically incapacitated and cut off from worldwide trade. So that means all of the states, they're incorporated under the U.S. corporation. So behind the scenes, they've already been cut off from, the SWIFT system, and they're running on the QFS system. Maybe. I don't know. Number 3, eradicating temporal delay within the GESARA protocol. The simultaneous management of the legal transformation delivers the vital cognitive shield against the emergence of an administrative vacuum within the daily routine of the population. The legacy system attempted within its destabilizing scenarios to plunge countries outside America into prolonged legal and economic chaos to decentrally sabotage the Allied liberation process. Through the coordinated global deployment of the Wealth and Debt Forgiveness Protocol of GESARA, this option is completely neutralized. The transition from the monopolistic exploitation model to constitutional liberty executes in lockstep. The locomotive of freedom merely performs the initial surgical cut. The entire global train of national states is inextricably coupled to these tracks via commercial law and enters the station of sovereignty in exact synchronization. Interesting, huh? Conclusion. The synchronous legal liquidation of the corporate matrix delivers the logical guarantee that no sovereign people will be left behind on the path into the new paradigm. The World Wide Web of the commercial maritime deception is completely dissolved within the shadows of allied operational design. The simultaneous awakening of land law terminates the era of bureaucratic bondage, anchoring the constitutional liberty of the entire human family upon an indestructible baseline under international public law. The clockwork of global transformation functions flawlessly. I'm at OperationDisclosureOfficial.com by Kat, contributing writer. Kat is the C3. I have. She also posts under that name. Kat update. Q the storm rider on the White House verifies Q and quantum. And this is dated 6/22/26. Q the storm rider, News 17 channel at Patreon. This is really important what the White House put out today. Instead of saying quantum financial system, they said White House will be Q posting today. This was huge, gigantic, massive comms. Because over the weekend, one of the biggest subjects in Camp David was about disclosure and how all that's going to come out. And one of the biggest subjects they were talking about, plasmoids, these living light plasma entities, living angels, living spirits, living beings. This living light that can shapeshift, turn into plasma balls, take off at immense speeds, control the military, shapeshift into UFOs and UAPs. Now these comms come direct from the White House. Q posting. Now everyone's ears picked up because today the White House posted that cryptic message. And then they said, we're talking the quantum financial system connected to crypto. This huge, gigantic world operations to facilitate how it's all going to work. Now you can track corruption. You guys already know this is already running behind the scenes. Trump is already facilitating operations through the Epstein stuff, making sure bankers are making the right choices around the world, collapsing banks, collapsing deep state empires around the world. Whether he's using the Epstein or the quantum financial military ops, they are finding all the corruption in the world. After 2020 is when Admiral Rogers went directly to Israel with Talon cybersecurity, and they rebuilt the Golden Dome there. And the Golden Dome was this living plasma light system that can do magnificent things. It's rebuilt, much stronger. Everything is running in a powerful way, and everything is running through the world. My comms are confirmed. Living light computers, intelligent angels, intelligent spirits, they are all living. The military still doesn't have a name for it. That's why they call it Q. Kind of reminds me of Star Trek. Next Generation, they had Q, was this being that could turn into anything.
Introducing Q, the omnipotent being who can bend reality with a single thought and never misses an opportunity to keep things interesting. An immortal being with near infinite power, Q is known for his pranks, challenges, and, let's be honest, his love for chaos. But beneath the surface, there's much more to his motives. Frequently clashing with Captain Picard, Q tests humanity's strength and limits, not just physically, but intellectually and morally. Q's challenges are never simple. They force the crew to confront their own fears and push past their limits. But Q isn't just here to make life difficult. His actions often carry deeper lessons, meant to push humanity toward growth, understanding, and evolution. But while Q's ultimate motivations remain unclear, one thing is certain. He's always watching, always testing, and always prepared to throw humanity into the unknown. With Q, expect the unexpected. The universe is his playground, and the trial never ends.
And, wow. So, they've known for a while, and they've been seeding the public with the information. That's amazing. One day, the real truth will be revealed. Aliens in the government, leaders that were aliens, that were angels, that were hybrids, all of this crazy story that sounds like Star Wars, you guys. This is Kat over and out. Now, Commander Thor has been telling us the same thing for a while. And he was right. So, There you have it. Now, there's some more posts I want to focus on. So I'm going to scroll down here and stop. If you want to just screenshot this or pause the video, you can read this. It's from Q the Storm Rider. Just talks about how Trump, went to Camp David over the weekend, and what they were talking about at Camp David was about disclosure, and more importantly about these plasmoid beings and things like that. How they're going to do that, reading him in, I guess. Now, it's all part of the operation that they say he's going to Camp David, because people need to see that he was read in like he didn't know before. That's all part of it. Okay, so when you hear Trump talking about the quantum financial system, they have enough qubits to run the operations now. Around 2022, 2023, they said they needed 20 million qubits to run the quantum computers, and they didn't have enough. Now they've hit it, and the United States is in possession of enough quantum computers to facilitate this huge world operation. But you guys already know this is already running behind the scenes. Trump is already facilitating operations through the Epstein stuff, making sure bankers are making the right choices around the world. People are starting to wake up to the Q post now, is what this is talking about. And it says here, there's living light computers, intelligent angels, intelligent spirits. They're living. The military still doesn't have a name for it. That's why they call it Q. This is what the huge discussion was about at Camp David. Nobody knows about this. The mainstream media isn't going to report it. Gene Takeout will hit a lot of channels and move this information. I'm thankful he does that. I don't do interviews. I just have a small project. Just trying to finish out these last years moving information in a certain way. No president has been briefed like Trump before, no matter the president. They were only given a little amount of actual information because they were controlled puppets of what is actually going on in the United States government. The military-industrial complex didn't tell presidents anything. That's true. If you've ever listened to Dr. Stephen Greer, he says there's above top secret, the presidents didn't even know about the dark projects and stuff that was going on in the military-industrial complex. But now, because we're in a republic, our president does know, and he's being read in. Now, the real wires coming out of the Middle East, Israel, inside DC, in the mainstream media, they're saying Trump is talking with the opposition against Netanyahu. This is the regime change that's coming, financing them and working with white hat intelligence behind the scenes to facilitate placing a new leader. Of course, the whole thing is staged. Netanyahu is gone. You're seeing things connected to clones, to advanced technology, shape-shifting. A lot of ways clones are made. Technology where humans are fully grown in vat systems. It takes a few weeks and it looks identical to a person. It's a huge topic when we talk about clones. It's big because you have different aliens, hybrids, superintelligence, how they can create clones, manipulating atoms, using moon sand to create living robots, smart water that can shapeshift. There's so many different ways they're creating clones behind the scenes, not just here on Earth, but throughout the universe. It's just a massive topic that will never end. Part of the mysteries of the universe and God's creation. See, you saw all the deliberate mistakes with the AI Netanyahu. Those were massive comms, like his ring disappearing in pictures in his hand. That he has gone. You're seeing the standoff happening, the public feud. People are happy that Trump is finally making a stand. The next discussion at Camp David was about, we have to put this inside military records. What is the next thing we need to do there? Create a new government. Then they talked about the QFS in Israel, Middle East, Saudi Arabia, China. A tripolar state I keep telling you about. People are being read in on this. Trump, Putin signed an agreement about it last month at the end of the scare event, so that's coming, and it is nuclear related. Looks like nuclear weapons, World War III. We will still have an escalation that's going to come, but when everything settles down, the world's going to come back together in a financial state. and a financial institution connected to crypto, connected to the quantum financial system that Trump is creating. This massive banking system. This is all moving forward behind the scenes. You have United States Space Force and underground super living computer systems with Musk operations, the military controlling those operations. So that's what Trump was doing at Camp David. They were also talking about Keir Starmer in the UK. Everybody was talking about this. You guys already knew about this. There's already massive investigations behind the scenes, but Andy Burnham is going to step in and he's going to create even more chaos in the UK. Oh boy, okay, so hello to the UK, if you're listening. Did you hear that? Confusion. It's going to make the UK even more upset, I guess because they've been so asleep. Massive corruption is going to be exposed. MI5, MI6, banking systems, trafficking. You are already hearing about the huge cover-up. Tends to stay away from. Inquiry report, I think. So Andy Burnham, that's coming in, is connected to the Zion, Khazarian, Rothschild, the Cabal operations. He's there to facilitate a cover-up of cabinet members behind the scenes. So that's what's to come there. The deep state wants him to go in there, ruffle more feathers, create chaos, bring in more immigrants. And then now the double operations of white hats. They're already controlling everything. This super living light system of plasmoids. They're already ensuring there's a collapse and exposure that's going to happen. Whether Andy Burnham is being forced to play a part because Keir Starmer was forced to play a part, whoever Andy is, he's forced to play a part. It's going to create chaos. It's going to create sixth-generation warfare. People are going to get so angry, upset, and will fight for their country. It's bad news for the UK. It's military operations, game theory operations. This event is happening not only in the United States, not only in the UK, but in every Western country. They're all 2 years behind the United States. Those are the real wires. We still have to go turmoil, still have to get to that nuclear event, that chaos event, to a massive collapse, and then a fast restructuring that's going to take place behind that. Trump, Russia, Z, Modi, MBS are going to facilitate everything to stabilize the world. Massive, massive projects for the future. Wow. Okay. But right now we're inside of this strange moment, and a really cool moment that the White House puts out this calm. The White Hats will be Q posting today. That's a definite reference to the Q posts. That's legitimizing it for people who still call us Q-tards or something. Really not cool. Those are massive comms for the people that were chattering all weekend about why Trump was in Camp David. And they were talking about this living light energy, living light plasma computer. People think it's a computer because it can connect to computers, but it can do so many, many, many things. I know that some of this stuff is really difficult because this is absolutely a puzzle. Like, Trump doesn't know about this. He has to act like he doesn't know, because now they have to record that he's being read in by Rubio, different colonels, generals, and all these different world leaders to get this on the military records in the U.S. archives. But at the same time, Trump already knows about a lot of different things. He knows about the aliens, the super advanced technology, storm operations. Trump isn't this dumb person. That's a whole other story about who Barron Trump is, who Tesla is, who Trump really is. Snowden, I've heard that before. I've heard that Snowden was, I think it was Tesla. That Snowden, I think Gene Decode said that. I'm not positive. That Snowden was actually Tesla. Aliens, white hat angels, white hat aliens. It's very important what's happening behind the scenes. One day the real truth will be revealed. Aliens in the government, leaders that were aliens, leaders that were angels, leaders that were hybrids. All of this crazy story that sounds like Star Wars. Big takeaways. So things are coming for the UK. It's going to get a little bit more chaotic in the UK because they're still asleep. They need to learn to fight back. like they're doing in Ireland, I think. Once it hits a point, like for the mass consciousness that are a certain point awake, I think that's when things get better. But they have to make sure. And there's going to be a scare event, and we're hearing now from Nino. He said Stuart Swerdlow told him that Russia was considering using tactical nukes on NATO. That's the scare event. So it's still out there. It's coming. So keep an eye out. And then we've got, along with all of this, we've got the comms today about national emergency. Things are happening, people. Be ready. So
is a lot going on. I mean, a lot. And you have a way of cutting through the noise and cutting through all of the distractions and helping us focus on what's really important today and where you see things going. So whatever you'd like to talk about, I'm grateful.
Yeah. So the latest, stuff with the Iran crisis seems like everything's settling down. I think there's still some problems there. I just listened to a former CIA analyst that I've followed for quite some time. He knows several people that I know as well. But he said that Iran actually, and I said this as well, I thought this, that Iran already has a nuke. And so that's one of the reasons why we've backed off, I believe. So where does that go from here? Do they actually set off a nuke underground as Pakistanis? I guess he's got some contacts with Pakistanis. I spent a lot of time in Pakistan. So the Pakistanis are saying that Iran plans to do an underground explosion instead of having a above ground, mushroom cloud. They're going to do one underground, and the seismicity from that will be obvious that they have nukes now. So when we went in and we started striking Iran, we stopped about 2 weeks early as far as like how many targets the military had to take out.
Yeah.
We stopped 2 weeks early. There was talk that there was going to be a regime change. Took out a lot of the top people in the former regime, I guess we could call it. But they have ways, as I've seen, over my 35 years of fighting terrorists and so forth, because this is a terrorist. This is literally a terrorist government. So, they've pushed that around the world, especially in the Middle East. So I had to go against them quite a few areas in the Middle East because they fund a lot of the terrorism that happens there. Now I think that they are funded on a larger scale by Europeans. So we know that Europe and a lot of our allies, are not on board with us. We're going after Iran. Why was that? Because they were going and are going to, I believe, use Iran to control the world through nukes. So it's going to be challenging going forward. So I think that we're going to see multiple challenges over the next several weeks, months, heading up into the election. So another thing that we need to watch is the Save America Act, which I don't think is going to be passed because the rhinos and the Democrats, if the Save America Act gets passed, then they're gone. We'll vote them out. So they can't have that go. So they're going to fight that all the way through, and they're going to make President Trump look bad all the way up until the election. So probably some executive orders are going to be passed by President Trump. So that's that. And then we're going to probably start to see arrests. Now, the reason why we haven't seen arrest at this point, because there's a counter to everything that we do against them. So we're at war with them. They have capabilities, obviously. They've been using them against us for quite some time. We saw it again more recently with the election fraud that's happening in California. So we're seeing them replace all of our mayors in most of our major cities with communists. So that's part of their agenda. So they're going to do this. They really have a communist mayor in LA, but they're going to go, I think, even further. Just like we saw with New York and Seattle, there's 2 communist mayors in those major cities. Those cities, as we know, will probably and are, as we speak, falling apart. But that is what they want to do. They want to destroy America, and they rebuild it in their image of what they want, and that's complete, domination and control of our society on a massive scale. As if we're not, controlled currently. They want to take it to another level again, and then again, and again, and again. So that's what we're up against. Now, a lot of people think that, because you're at war, that means there's kinetic activity, because that's what we see with war. But that's not what we're seeing here in the United States and in Europe and other places. We're seeing governments getting taken over, because normally when you do a kinetic war, your goal is to take over the government of that country. They have learned to, take over our governments without kinetic activity. So so I outlined some of it, of course, with Joe Biden having been in office. That was a major movement where they allowed our replacements on a massive scale to come in. So illegal immigration, flooded into our country. With that coming in, one of the goals of a communist takeover is to make everybody dependent on the system. So they couldn't make us, United States citizens, dependent on the government fast enough. They were doing a pretty good job of it, of course, with a lot of programs that are out there. But they needed to speed the process up. So they brought in legal immigration on a massive scale. 20, 30 million people came into our country over a 4-year period. That process was already going on under Obama, and they wanted to continue it under Clinton, but it got stopped, fortunately, by President Donald Trump. And now he stopped it again. So they're in a desperation mode to basically, accelerate this process. So part of that process will be to cause conflict, like we're seeing that seems to be heating up rather than being, we see a peace agreement. It's not really a peace agreement. It's basically a stalling until we get, I guess, better positioning, or maybe they'll push it beyond the election, so that we make sure that we have the right people in position, because they cannot do what they're doing to us if we have good people in positions of leadership, in office, in political positions. So they've known that for a long time. Obviously, that's their intention, to put people in there that will allow, like unfortunately you went through, child trafficking and so forth, which is on a massive scale. Now, going even deeper again, we're seeing a lot of activity coming off the sun. Now, normally, when plasma and electrical energy comes off the sun, that would, raise our consciousness, which, for many of us, it is doing that. But in some certain areas, because the consciousness has been, compromised, and MK Ultra is at a high level, then when these energies come in, it causes a negative effect, like earthquakes, volcanoes, and tsunamis. So I think that we're going to see an uptick in those, because we're not seeing the consciousness of certain areas raise enough to counter those massive energies that are coming in. And instead of everybody lifting in consciousness, those that are in places like California that are allowing these people to come into power, and allowing children to be trafficked and barbarized, really, on a scale that's quite unimaginable. We can talk about it, but we can't imagine it if we've never seen it or gone through it. you know, on a certain level can give us information about that, and that's what you've been doing.
Yeah.
But as you know, there's far greater things are happening. So in California, it's happening on a massive scale because you have the political elite there that run those programs, benefit from those programs. They're horrific, and the people that are there are not rising up. They're allowing it to go through and to happen instead of like taking to the streets and saying, we're not leaving the streets until you guys are gone. Like we've seen in a lot of countries over time, Californians are allowing it. So that's when you allow negative energies in a certain area, then you allow negative repercussions. And that's what I believe is going to happen with California. We just had a 5.6 quake in Northern California. That was the largest one, second largest one in recorded history. So we're seeing an increase in earthquake activity along the coast and off the coast where tsunamis could unfortunately eventuate from. So that's probably what we're going to see in California, and it's going to be tragic. But these are things we're going to start to see over the next several months because of this increase in energies. The energies are going to increase, and if we're not on a level as a people across the board that we can absorb these energies and go higher with them, then they turn out to be a negative, and that's what we're going to see. So, you know, increase in earthquake activity and so forth. Probably see a fake alien invasion. That's a very strong possibility, because I think that we have good ET brothers and sisters out there trying to help us, and the negative ones are trying to impose their will on us like they have for a very long time, and keep us dumbed down and controlled and so forth. So we've seen, like the Great Flood that we read about in the Bible. I believe that was a point where consciousness had a chance to upgrade, and unfortunately it wasn't at that level, so the earth got destroyed. So we're coming into that again. Now I think it's going to be isolated with the earth destructions, because there's enough of us now that are high vibration, high consciousness. We'll move into areas where we'll survive, and there will be a greater number of us than any time in the past. But that is some of the things I see. Quite a lot on the plate, I know. not there is positive.
Please, Michael.
We are moving into a golden age. There's no question about that.
Yeah, that is a lot. I have to say, I'm over here.
I have a lot more, but that's enough.
So you have even more. Yeah, I'm sitting here taking notes while I'm thinking of all my follow-up questions. But your information keeps coming and coming and coming. That is a lot. No wonder people can feel so overwhelmed right now, because there's so much coming at us. So you said there's even more. I mean, I can't stop you now. So what else?
So the other things are, if we do not have a good election, which at this point we will not have a good election. The Democrats and the rhinos will win in the midterm, and they'll put a lot of pressure, just like they did in his first term when he lost in the midterm. He lost in the midterm because they went up against him, because he's like I don't know. We have to look back in history. Who is he similar to? You could look at Moses. So leading the the Jewish people, and it wasn't a lot of people just think it was the Jews. It was also a lot of the Egyptians that saw the problems with their society. So they left with Moses as well. So that's kind of what Trump is doing. He's leading us away from this corrupt group. Will we have like I think what they went through, biblical type of things that happened? I think Egypt, that was where Egypt basically collapsed on a massive scale. because there were massive earthquakes and geological events that happen. You can see that they happen around the world. There's evidence of that in a lot of text, not just from the Bible, but also from around the world. There's people that talk about, floods and all kind of crazy stuff. So this was a period that humanity went through as, consciousness had the opportunity to rise, but a lot of people wanted to not do anything, just let the old system continue to control and manipulate, and then some people broke free. So that's where we're at right now. So I don't think that we're going to have a good election at this point, unfortunately, because I don't think there's enough that's been done. Even if President Trump does an executive order, there's going to be a lot of states like we saw and we see right now in California, although we pointed out there, have done election fraud, nothing is happening. Right. So,
That's right.
And who knows, maybe it will. Maybe the 2020 election steal gets revealed. Maybe some people get arrested. But again, if you start the arrest process, then there will be a massive repercussion for that. And we know that these they have directed energy weapons, HARP, and so forth. They can cause earthquakes. They can know where earthquakes are happening and kick them off even more. We're seeing the biggest typhoons in history right now that are swinging around in the Pacific right now, and the weight of those storms can cause earthquakes. And one of those storms, one of the typhoons that's right now moving towards Japan, is going to move over a fault area. So we could see a lot of so there's more. There's a lot more.
I'm holding on. I've got my seatbelt on right now, Michael.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what we do. We just fasten our seatbelts.
Yep.
There's lots of turbulence, so
yep.
And it's going to get a lot of shaky. But in the end, we land, and we're all good. But how long will the shaking, literally and figuratively, go on? I think it's going to go on for several more years.
Whenever you talked about arrests, I want to, because I could have a million questions. When you talk about the arrest, you think that and I know you've talked on some of your shows about this recently too, you think there will be some arrests? And if so, will that help in any of these other areas or?
Well, Fauci looks like he's about to go. Looks like they're going to sacrifice Fauci to us through the good side. And will that be enough? No, of course it won't be enough. That'll be the beginning. But they want us to okay, we're going to give you something. That's it. We're going to give you Fauci. And so that should be like a tsunami back at them of this fraud that was pushed upon the world. We know that there's in the Wuhan laboratories gain of function, and then that gain of function escaped. Right? It's from a bat in a market. So that lie was disclosed. I disclosed these lies very early on. I saw right through it. And so will we have more of that? I think we're not done with bioweapons. So more bioweapons are coming. Ebola is really flaring, and they're building the narrative for that. Some people have left. I don't know how they were able to leave, but there's 2 people in Israel. And this is one of those Ebola. Usually Ebola is you have to have direct contact. Wow, this one you don't have to. So this latest one that just evolved, you don't have to have direct contact. So we've seen that. We've seen some other ones that they have out there floating around. So I don't see how it's going to be stopped. I mean, Fauci, you take out Fauci, but he's just a figurehead in a much larger program, which is transforming humanity. A lot of people are having issues from that, and we're having issues, and we talked about this as well, from the shedding from people that had that vaccination. So those of us that were healthy and and so forth. We're getting that on us. So it's a constant fight for cleansing your body. We promote the LifeWave, and that's helped a lot of people. But there's a lot of people that don't even know about LifeWave, have no idea. So there's lots of things that we can talk about as far as what that can help with, and maybe we'll get to that in a little bit. But again, the massive assault on humanity has not stopped. You haven't seen these people go to jail. So the 2030 project that they have, it was 2021, and thanks to Trump that got stopped out. But so they pushed it to 2030. So we're on the Titanic, and it's leaking, right? We're already hit the iceberg, and we're slowly stalling, and we're moving towards 2030, where their plans are that they have complete control over us, just like they had planned for 2021, but it didn't quite pan out, because we've seen Europe, we're seeing China, and we're seeing Hong Kong and a lot of areas, Japan, for most part. So their economies are still, suppressed and still undergoing, problems and so forth. Although the stock market, everybody looks at the stock market and they're like, well, the stock market's going up, so I guess everything's good. It's like all the money is going to the stock market. It's flowing out from everything else. So money seeks, it wants to be in something that goes up. So the stock market is the last thing. Now, last few days, stock market has hit all-time highs again.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but like the S&P 500 hasn't hit all-time high, so it didn't. And that's the one you really watch. So when that didn't hit an all-time high, like the Nasdaq and the Dow did, and some of the other stock markets, I think the Russell and maybe some other ones, but they hit all-time highs again. But the S&P 500 did not confirm. So that was a big red flag. So we're starting to see a little bit of pullback. We're seeing, the cabals that control the money. They're really leaning hard on silver, because a lot of us have gotten silver.
Right.
And, so they're leaning hard in that. So a lot of people are panicking. There's a panic in the market right now in some of the precious metals. It's not time to panic ever in precious metals, especially during this time frame. Where you're seeing housing prices are collapsing all across the United States and the world. So that money's leaving, and it's going into the last place where we're going to see money create money, or fiat money create, because they're there's so much debt out there. It's more debt now there's ever been in any time in history. And when you have debt markets, basically they're funding this stock market bubble, this AI bubble, and so forth. At some point, just like we've seen in the past, 1929, 2000, the dot-com bust, and of course 2008, 2009, the Great Recession. All right, it should have been a Great Depression, but they stopped it because they pumped a lot of money into and plugged that hole in the Titanic. So it could last a little bit longer, and they can make a little bit more money off of us to control this a little bit more, to the point where they can finally go, okay, we're all off. We're all in our lifeboats. The ones that we want to go down with the ship, they're on it. So let's pull the plug, right? So that's kind of where we're headed at 2030.